Welcome to the Choose Your Path series. This is a series dedicated to all the different niche markets in the Pokemon TCG to give you an insider view of all the different perspectives of this hobby. Once again, if you are new to the Pokemon TCG, if you're a beginner in the Pokemon TCG, if you're a veteran in a Pokemon TCG and you want to see how graded cards are a good thing, or whether or not you want to do singles and raw cards, whether you like sealed investment or overall just running a Pokemon business online or brick and mortar. This is a series for you to give you a glimpse into each one of these different perspectives and niche markets that may give you a direction that you might be good at doing and want to pursue. So once again, sit back, relax as we go through another episode of Choose Your Path. Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Choose Your Path here on Northwoods TCG, and today we are going to be bringing in another content creator with Basic Trainer. Basic, would you like to do a quick introduction?
Sure, definitely. Basic Trainer here, guys. Basic Trainer by day, Basic Caster by night, even though it's nighttime right now, so I guess I'm Basic Cat. I don't know. Just call me Basic. Yeah, I've been around for a while. You know, some folks know me, but for those who don't know me, I'm just a Joe Schmo in the hobby. Been around for about a decade, back into the hobby, very late 2012. And through a lot of peer pressure and whatnot, I started a YouTube channel, and where I go live for an unreasonable amount of time. And here we are with Northwoods. Thank you, Northwoods, for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And what is your record so far for your YouTube stream? What was that? I can't remember. It was a long time.
Well, I broke my own record like within back-to-back lives. Yeah. The first one that I broke the record was 11 hours and 32 minutes for no reason whatsoever. And I think it was literally the next weekend, I went for 12 hours. So yeah, that was, and that was actually, I want to say, yeah, that was the New Year's. That was the New Year's stream.
Yep. I knew it was almost 13 hours when it was almost done from what I remembered on it. It was just crazy. It's like, man, how'd you even walk after that? I'd have been stiff and just, I'm done. I'm broken.
Believe it or not, I got up. I was like, well, what do I do? Do I go to sleep? I'm like, well, let's make breakfast. Let's, tidy up until I'm completely like drained out. And then I got in the shower, and that was my mistake. I woke up. And I was like, all right, let's go ahead and go out and do some things, and came back, and then I just crashed after that.
That's like me. It's like I can go about 40 hours straight. If after 40 hours, it's just like someone hits a light switch. Just That's it. Done.
So people have been asking for the 24-hour because I've been kind of teasing it.
Yeah.
24-hour live stream, and I am working on it. I'm just kind of, the date is very, very yeah, it's here. I don't know when exactly when I'm going to do it, but
Valentine's Day, that'd be a good one.
So I thought about that. A few people have been reaching out like, hey, when are you doing? I would like to jump on. And so all I know is it will be done by the first quarter. I would love to do it in February, but it's not 100%. Way too much. I would say way too much. It's essentially way too much Metazoo going on right now, but it's just one thing, Metazoo. Way too much Metazoo going on right now.
But it's in the works, so
it's in the works for sure. It will happen.
It will happen. We'll be seeing a Basic Trainer 24-hour stream.
For no reason whatsoever.
So, the purpose of these interviews is, of course, to kind of go into the different niches and different areas of the hobby so that people can see different paths that they could choose in the Pokemon or in TCGs in general. There's a lot of different options. There's a lot of different niche groups, different personalities and different ways that you can do things. And that's the purpose of these, is to try and give people maybe a direction that are new and want to maybe choose what they want to do without actually dabbling into every single part of the hobby, which would take a long time to be actually settle into something. So there's a series right now of 8 questions that we have, and we'll kind of work through these once again, kind of go off, kind of let it go, and we kind of see what kind of information comes out from, Basic as we move forward. And it's just a lot of fun to sit here and do that for everybody. So you ready to get into the questions, Basic?
Let's do it, man.
Let's get on it.
Hot seat. Put me in the hot
All right,
seat.
He's in the hot seat. Here we go. Get the light like a police station. Put it right on you. That way you got it really hot and going over here. First question I ask people is, of course, what do you do currently or before getting into buying and selling graded Pokemon or TCG cards?
So I've been in the hobby for 10 years. Again, late 2012 is when I got back in. I was already at that point out of school, 4 years out, 6 years out, sorry. And just going through the motions, right? Responsibilities, becoming an adult. And I ran into PokeTubers, and it was actually me searching up because I wanted to play the Game Boy. I wanted to play the games Yellow, Red, and whatnot. And so through that, me looking up glitches and cheat codes and like how to
Mm-hmm.
get all whatever. I ran into Gem in Pokemon, Crack Rock McCabe. Most people don't know Crack Rock McCabe, but both of them are buddies. And yeah, that's how I got into it. At that time, though, I was doing my 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 job by trade, which is a mechanical maintenance technician, and so I did that for about, or still doing it, but technically right now I'm in a sabbatical when I moved down to Texas. But for 15 years, mechanical maintenance tech, and think somewhere along the lines of Coca-Cola, right? And pretty much essentially all the machinery, electricals, sensors, all the way out to the facility itself, boilers, HVACs, and all that good stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much what I did for a very long time, and it's I really collected for 9 out of those 10 years. And it really wasn't until the peak where slowly and little, but for sure, was I was transitioning into this more of selling and maybe even flipping. And I know that today there's two camps, right? There's people that love it, people that hate it, and some people that say, hey, both can exist, right? Which I think
Mm-hmm.
I'm in that camp of like there's room for everyone, there's a lane for everyone, and it's a big highway. Like here in Texas, we got freaking 9 laners, so there's enough there's enough lanes for every single aspect of the hobby. So yeah, that's what I did. That's my profession. But I'm not gonna lie, right now I'm kind of dabbling, testing, experimenting with the let's see how far I can get this before my sabbatical ends because I do have a deadline.
Right.
And then right after that, I'm gonna get right back out there. But I'm actually really enjoying it. I didn't realize that I was gonna enjoy it this much because there is an aspect of the hunt, behind that. Finding the right card, finding what people want, and then not only that, in most cases grading it so that
Yeah.
you get that high grade, hunting for that high grade, and then putting it out there in the market for those for to allow the market to decide what it's worth.
Yeah. And that's like even my kind of transitional period right now is going towards that more. I mean, I'm going to continue to do for the investing side. I'm going to continue to do seal investment. I mean, it's a safe, overall when it comes down to investments, it's a really safe plan to do. But it's definitely something that I used to do and I want to get back into is doing the hunt for the graded cards. Start working some sources, start working with people out in the hobby that I know, and start bringing in some of these really good, potentially good quality cards, and putting the time into sending them to PSA, grading them, pre-grading them, and then getting them back, hopefully with the grade I'm looking for, to start turning over that new income. And like I said, a lot of people like to say it's flipping. That's fine. Because you're doing that. And like you said, there's enough lanes in this hobby. There are so many different avenues and so many different ways that you can look at it when it comes down to what you can do. And definitely one of those things that there's a place for everybody. And I think that there's some really good opportunities in that graded market, some really good hunting. It's more fun. It's more
Yeah.
interactive. It's more you need to know what you're doing. You need to be really cautious and understand. And I understand that part of it. So it's definitely a new trajectory I want to start working back into, but it's definitely same thing. To me, I see more opportunities in that market than just sitting collecting and investing into sealed product that just sits on a shelf, wait 5 to 10 years and hope that the value is there that you're looking for and it's sellable at the end of the day. That's another thing that a lot of people, even I see making that mistake currently, is that not everything in 10 years could be sellable. it may be very difficult to sell some of the stuff depending on how niche or how specific it is at the end of the day.
For sure.
So, um, what progression did you make in Pokemon or TCGs before focusing on graded cards?
Progression, it was more so. Again, I started back in 2012 and I started collecting for 9 years, heavy in the collecting aspect. I mean, when I sold, I think my average per year of selling, it's like 3 items a year. And that was just because sometimes I would get lots and I would get a duplicate of something. And I would look them over. I would, keep the best one. And typically it wasn't the card, it was the case. And so I'm big on displayability. And so, at that point, I just cared what aesthetically looked better, not the card, but the plastic. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so I did that heavily for 9 years, and I started out from sealed. My very first few items, again, shout out Gem and Pokemon and Crack Rock McCabe. When I saw them breaking boxes and grading way back in 2012, my first reaction was, "Whoa, where did these come from? Like, I didn't know these still existed. No way. How can something so rare from something that was so long ago still exist today? There's no possible way." So after that, I did some digging on eBay. Was like, oh, okay, there's a few options up there. Let me, oh God, this is very expensive. Geez, freaking $500 for a base set box. Like, man,
Base set first
uh,
edition.
3,000 for a first edition. That, like, no, $3,000. That's crazy. Who's
Mm-hmm.
gonna spend $3,000 on a first at base box? So obviously, because even not that I understood the risk, my knee-jerk reaction was there's too much risk to buy this base set first set box. So I'm gonna get the unlimited. So I started out with sealed, and my mid-grade OCD did not allow me to just have the base set. So I had to go out and get the fossil and the jungle,
Jungle.
and that
Rocket.
just dominoed into getting others, right? And through this, believe it or not, because I was just looking at sealed,
Mm-hmm.
one day I ran into, and all this, I think I grabbed the first 7 sets. I went up all the way up to Neo. I got the Neo Genesis, maybe the next one after, and only looking at sealed. One day I just bumped into, and I did this during like a 3 or 4 month span. In this span, I ran into a slab. I was like, whoa, what's a slab? Like, what's this? And and me being a collector for even longer than how I've been back into the Pokemon hobby, I've been a collector for sports memorabilia. I'm a big sports fan. I'm from Chicago, so Chicago freaking is huge with
Everything.
sports. And baseballs, autographed baseballs, jerseys, memorabilia, anything, you name it. And I'm just a big collector. It's just in my DNA. And so when I saw slabs, I never even ran into slabs for sports, believe it or not. So it first happened in Pokemon. I ran into slabs, and then literally my first 3 purchases, which I still have today, it's the first edition Team Rocket. Here comes Team Rocket, or Team Rocket Returns, from Team Rocket set,
Yep. The original
and
team. Yeah. Here comes Team Rocket.
here comes Team Rocket,
Yeah.
and a Bill from base set, and Professor Oak from base set. Literally, those were trainer cards. Those were my 3 slabs that I bought. I think they all totaled for like $10 total
Yeah.
combined, all individually. I mean, it's 2012.
Yeah.
So those were my first 3 slabs. It reminded me back of the TCG I mean, when you pull a bill, right, today, it's nostalgic.
Yeah.
it,
It's just
it,
cool.
it, it back then it was like, who cares, but today it's nostalgic. And so that's why I got it. Also, my favorite Pokemon game is the TCG game, the trading card
Mm-hmm.
game for Game Boy.
Yeah.
And so Bill and Professor Oak, you need those cards in the deck to be successful, to win games. And so that's why I got those 3. And then after that, it was just freaking snowballed into every
All kinds of
slab that I can
slabs.
get. I transitioned into building master sets of the base set Jungle Fossil. I then went on and I went as far as Team Rocket. had other slabs here and there for other sets, but really, as far as master sets, Team Rocket. Um, but during that time, I was getting lots, and I would sometimes get Japanese versions of the
Yeah.
base set Jungle Fossil. And then I realized when I compared the two, because I always had that tendency of comparing, and I realized that the Japanese were way more beautiful than the
Yes.
English counterpart. Even though the English is what I grew up with, I was like, whoa, aesthetically, it just looks better. It's more aesthetically pleasing. So what did I do? Well, I decided to get the freaking master sets in Japanese as well.
Wow.
And but again, this all
That's a
happened
lot.
when base set 9 Charizard was $25.
Yeah.
And that was the peak of the, that was your chase of that set. So $25 was your high end. Everything else was $10, if
yeah.
that. So it was very easy to do. And then yeah, just little by little, it just got more into more niche things, toys, rare things that nobody even cares about but me. Someone like myself, something like, again, being a sports fan. There are these dog tags. You've seen the dog tags, right? That they're all over the place.
Yeah.
They're littered all over the eBay.
Mhm.
But there's very specific ones in 2000 that they partnered with Major League Baseball, and so
Really?
there's only about 10,000, uh, call it printed, made. Only 10,000 made for each game, or the ones that were released. And those are freaking awesome because those are back in 2000. For example, I have the one from the New York Mets, Shea Stadium, which doesn't exist anymore.
No, it's gone.
I have a Pokemon dog tag from the Detroit Tigers. I forget their ballpark. No,
Oh, not Ford Stadium. No, that's the football team.
no,
What the heck was it? The Lance or Silverdome.
no, not Silver. Yeah, we're skipping on the name here, but yeah,
I
it's a
know.
park that doesn't exist anymore today. Uh, Baltimore Orioles. I have a set of 5, but there's more. And the thing is, I've been trying to find actual information. So anyone out there watching this, if you have the information, please let me know. Please reach out. But I've been trying to find information to see if all 30 dog tags of every single baseball team existed for that year, or was there only a selected amount of teams that were selected that
Yeah.
year, and that's what they went with. So I don't know what I'm chasing here. I don't know if I'm chasing 12 or all 30.
All 30,
But
yeah.
regardless, it's a chase, and it's taken me actually quite a few years just to get to those 5, especially the rarer ones. That New York Mets one, literally the only one that I've seen ever pop up on eBay. I snatched it and buy it now at a whopping $15. So
Wow.
yeah,
Even as rare
nobody
as it
wants.
is.
Yeah, nobody wants those. Even today, I think the most common one for some reason, it's the Baltimore Orioles. I also have a Phillies one, but yeah, for some reason you can find a handful of those, but all the other ones are just very rare. Yeah, and so yeah, went to those neat, very niche things. And then fast forward to like 2016, obviously that whole boom, it got crazy. I started getting into, for the first time, into modern, right? Air quotes modern, whatever what was modern at that point. I would rip a few packs here and there, but never really cared for it. In 2016, it's when it allowed me to actually venture into the playing aspect of the game. And Evolutions came out. I think I remember opening 4 or 5 with my girls, 4 or 5 boxes. Um, I remember getting the base set of Sun and Moon, and that's actually when I started playing the game in physical LGSs.
Okay.
I would show up, go there, play. My favorite deck was the Decidueye deck. That was an awesome deck, very smooth, fluid deck. But then I just got spanked by a bunch of 10-year-olds, so I just decided to retire early. Um, and then fast forward once again to 2020, that whole craziness happened.
Yeah.
And that's when I would say the first selling bug kind of, bit me. Barely flinched, but that was the start of it all because I sold my childhood binders. I sold raw cards. I just pulled out a very few. But I really didn't care much for the raw cards. I never really cared for binders. once I found steel and slabs. Because as a big sports memorabilia, collector, as you know, the biggest aspect of it is displayability.
Yes.
It's how it looks visually, right? It's when you walk into a room, you can't miss that one basketball Michael Jordan signed. You can't miss
Yep.
that one jersey. So it was all about displayability, and so that's how it transitioned for me into Pokemon. So I got rid of all of my binders. I got rid of all of them. My childhood binders. I know that PK would probably, have some very, not kind words for me, but that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
We're all different.
Everybody's different. I mean, at the end of the day, that's exactly it. Everybody's got a different way of doing things. Everybody's got a different aspect of it. Some people hate raw cards. Some people hate graded cards. Some people hate sealed products. Some people love sealed product. It's just there's so many different ways you could look at this hobby, and
Right.
like you said, displayability to me is important, and that's where I even talk about when you're looking at investments on like single cards. If it could be a really popular Pokemon, but if it doesn't display well, it's not going to be as popular as a displayable version of the same Pokemon. So, base set Charizard has probably some of the best, like we were talking beforehand. Actually, when it comes down to most of the base set cards, Charizard's probably got the most detail in it, probably one of the better artworks of the actual set. But compared to new Charizards, it's not as flashy or anything like that. But the thing is, it's the original, which it always has its advantages with that factor too. I mean, it's like a Michael Jordan rookie card is always going to be higher prestige, higher demand than an actual older generation of Michael Jordan. Even though they're all good, this one's going to be slightly better. So that's just one of them things. I mean, it's just kind of interesting that in the aspect of things, displayability, I think, is going to, if this hobby continues to follow a lot of like sports cards and those kind of things and the direction it is currently going, I think that that's another important factor that some people might be missing in this hobby is when they're looking at, graded cards and singles and things like that. They may not be understanding that displayability may become an important factor, to collectors in the future. Because people, let's be honest, if Pokemon continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and Charizards get more expensive, and those Diamond and Pearl cards start to take up, or level X's become more expensive, people are going to want to display them. You're not going to want to sit there and stick them inside of a binder inside of your safe that, yeah, I've got $100,000 card, but nobody can see it.
Especially, just based on what we know today, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everyone that's in the hobby today knows what happened back in 2020. And it's like, if you didn't take care of your cards, guess what? You just lost out on a lot of money back in 2020, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
so people know now, take care of your cards, sleeve all of your commons and uncommons, right? From freaking Vivid Voltage, because 20 years from now, they're going to be
Who
worth a
knows?
lot of money. And so, yeah, it's one of those things that I do believe it's not going to happen overnight, but that transition of people wanting collectibles cards, modern cards, to be displayable, it's going to be huge. They're going to want them in a slab. Not all of them, but it's a slow transition. And then when you include technology, right? Just like anything else, when you are in for a lot of people, right, in the social media space, it's like almost showing off, right? You're showing off your sauce and whatnot. A raw card is not going to cut it. You're going to need that same card in a PSA 10. You know,
Correct.
PSA 9, we'll still applaud, but you need that PSA 10. And I'm
You
not a
need that.
big PSA 10 collector, but it's just that same psychology of you need it to be better. So it used to be a binder, now you need it in a slab.
Yep. Yeah, it is as especially as if you look at it in general. Anybody in Pokemon right now this is still a young hobby. The first generation is really the ones that have the money that are starting to drive this hobby further. As we get older, we're going to be looking more at displayability of these cards. We're going to be looking more at those. How can we get these out in the open? How can we show what we have? Because to me, I always say it's like my father's old muscle card. Dad wanted his childhood muscle car because that was the car that was so awesome that he wanted to have a specific Chevy Nova, 1970 Chevy Nova SS with the SS package added, not the original. So the title had to say just Chevy Nova, but it had to have the SS package. So it was just one of the things. He was very specific on it, but he wanted to display that. Now, my generation, cars don't seem to be as big of a thing, right? We don't really draw towards cards. We seem to be drawing more towards collectibles, things that we can display in our spaces and our hobbies and our backgrounds of things, And as that continues, I think that definitely the people that are grading, such as yourself, and in that kind of movement, are definitely getting ahead of what I think will be the trend for our generation 10 years, 20 years down the road.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely for sure. And again, that whole 2020 craze that led me to just sell my binders. I pulled out everything that was gradable. Essentially, in 2020, there was not a lot that you couldn't grade.
Mm-hmm.
But in essence, my rule of thumb was if it was hollow, it came out. If it was non-hollow, it left. And it was crazy what those non-hollow binders went for.
Oh,
It was
sure.
crazy. I mean, disgusting. I want to throw up for the people that bought those, like because but it was the market, right? Even myself, that held a lot of these items and didn't sell just simply because not being aware like we have today. We back in 2020 or even before, we didn't have the luxury of channels like yourselves, right?
Yeah.
That had all this information to help people. And what I know now, who was it? Retro, shout out Retro on his last live. We know if there's another boom, if there's another run on Pokemon, everyone's selling. Everyone's
Oh,
selling because
yeah.
right? We know that the cycle
Yep.
is it's going to come back down, and then you're going to be able to get
Get
whatever
it
you
all
want
back.
right back, and then be
Do
able
it
to
again.
expand your collection or do other things in
Mm-hmm.
life, whatever. So, but yeah, so I sent off a whole bunch of slabs. Essentially, it was like close to 500 cards off to CNG Emporium. Shout out to those guys. Um, sure, it took them 18 months, but hey, hey guys, you guys did what you could. There's
Yeah.
nothing. There was nothing you guys could do. It was the whole PSA and their backlog. Um, I received those again 18 months later. I received my slabs. I had so much that it was overwhelming almost to do it all on eBay. So I thought
Yeah.
the easiest I would go to all the collecticons. So therefore I thought the easiest route for me to go and vend, but it was also nerve wracking because I've never did that, right? I never
Yeah.
sold, I never had a table before, but I did it for the first time. And long story short, it worked out great. 3x the investment, which is nothing compared if I would have received my slabs a month later, but hey,
Yeah.
3x profit is profit. Profit is profit. And it was an awesome experience. And I think the what I profited the most was actually the experience. It was the experience and that kind of bug that gave me that kind of bug of maybe we can do this again.
Yeah.
Maybe this is repeatable. How repeatable is it? And so now this is where fast forward to today. That was last year, August. So fast forward to today, and between then, I've been experimenting with the whole buying and grading and flipping, and let's see what we can do.
Yeah. And that's a great evolution. And like I said, that's always something that I think down the road, that's where I'd like to get to at some point, is start going to more of these trade shows, even locally, and have a good inventory of these items, stacked up and ready to go. That, like Eau Claire, we have a big trade show down there where they have all kinds of Pokemon cards, sports cards, Yu-Gi-Oh, all of them. I mean, they take over the whole main section of the mall down all the hallways, and they fill them all full of all these different vendors with stuff. And I said, it'd be a good close to home. Let's test it out to see how well this performs. Let's get an inventory that makes sense to go and do it, and let's try it. Because what's the worst thing that could happen? It don't work, and then I got to come back here and list them all on eBay and do all that kind of, a little bit more hard work, lose more percentages, depending on the sales, but it is what it is. That they'll move on eBay, as long as you got the right cards, as long as you're not grading, Weedles or something like that, you usually are probably in fairly good shape if you're doing. There's probably
Listen. I
Weedle
graded
market.
Weedles back in December, and even in last year August, they sold for $25 in nines. And so I don't
Hey,
think I got a single 10 in a Weedle, but even the non-starter tens were going for like $35 to $40. So
yeah,
back in August, so I thought at like the 17th month mark that I made a huge mistake rating those, but again, once I went to
that
LBC,
worked.
it was just a huge different story. It was like, wow, people want these.
It's funny. It does seem like you think this market's cooling, And it seems like sometimes the online stuff is slowing, but still locally, it's extremely hot still in spots. So even last year, after everything that happened in 2022, we went to the trade show, and the trade shows were they couldn't move slabs fast enough. They were feeding slabs off them tables for Pokemon products just left and right. It wasn't just Pokemon. It was old Magic cards. It was Yu-Gi-Oh cards. It was sports cards. It's funny with, all this inflation, all these things. There was always that fear coming into 2022 that this was just eventually going to get to a point where someone like slammed on the air brakes and this thing is going to die right in the middle of the highway, and that was going to be it. And people still seem to have no problem spending money on collectibles.
It's the craziest thing because we all know, right? Hindsight, and with all the great channels that are out there, teaching us and giving us knowledge and whatnot, and using kind of real investments and stocks and portfolios and whatnot, that this is what happens in spikes and bubbles, and this is what happens when it crashes, and this is how we can translate that into Pokemon. And thanks to those guys, we kind of know what we know now. So we knew that it was going to correct. We knew that it was going to go down across the board. But you're right. Now you add something like real financial markets, being in the red zone, and not in a good way. I mean, it's redlining,
Yeah.
and it's about to blow up, and yet people are still buying. So I have one example. I have a friend that they asked me, "Oh, what should I do with this PSA, Zard? Should I do it as a buy it now, auction?" They're really afraid to do auctions. I said,
Yeah.
"Look, in my experience, cards like that, a PSA Charizard, it's gonna go what it's gonna go for. Sure, be prepared for about 20% under, but if you're looking for $400, you're not gonna be too upset if you get 375. Of course, you
No.
want the 400, but at 375, you're not gonna be too upset."
Mm-hmm.
They got it for about 425, 450. Okay, cool. The next week, maybe 2 weekends after, I got my PSA 8 Charizard, or it turned out to be an 8. I was hoping for a 9.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to put it out there, put it on auction. I'm okay with 425. It went for $555.
Yeah.
And at first I thought, oh, somebody just
They're gonna
freaking,
cancel it.
yeah, somebody just ballooned it for no reason and they're going to cancel. It was sold, it was paid for.
Wow.
I was like, wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy. And at first I thought, let me take back a look, because I always, cards like that, I always open it up to global shipping.
Mm-hmm.
Just if you never know, across the world, who needs their base and unlimited Charizard, because
No.
when you open it up to the world, then there's probably not enough base set Charizards, right,
No.
available. And so, but no, it was in the states. It was in the states, and I was like, that's crazy, but all right, who am I to complain? There you go, there it is.
It was
So
PK.
it was PK. Yeah. Thanks, PK. Thanks for the support.
Thanks for supporting the habit. What? No, it is. I think at every turn right now, you're just with the way that the macro economy is going, and with the way that housing's slowing down, and now we're seeing layoffs and things like that. Part of me is still sitting there waiting for, when is this break going to happen? When is enough going to be enough where people are going to stop spending on collectibles? And the question is that, are they gonna stop spending on collectibles? Because I would have thought we would have almost seen it to a point now. And or are they gonna stop spending on other things? So instead of going on a vacation, they would rather have that Charizard first, or unlimited Charizard sitting in their collection. Are they reprioritizing what their money is being spent on, instead of taking, because of COVID and everything else? That was the other thing that me and my friend were talking about. Is it because people are traveling less? Because we do know that people are traveling less than they did back in 2018, going into 19. People have restricted or, slowed down. Are they taking that money, and instead of going on that family trip or doing that stuff, they're putting it into a collection piece that they feel, number one, they enjoy, they love it, it's something that they agree on and that they want to have, and they also see it as a potential, hey, if I buy this now, the market's here, look at what happened back in 2020, this could also be an investment piece for myself 5 years, 10 years down the future in the future also. So there might be a double look at what they're actually purchasing at this point.
Right. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of theories. I mean, I have a
Oh yeah.
feeling just like just like in 2020. Now there was obviously a window there of 2019, fall 2019 through summer of 2020.
hmm
I forget when Logan Paul's break was. Was that October?
That was October of 2020 or 20,
October.
yeah, 2020. Yep.
So before pre Logan Paul, but I would say fall of 2019, there was already
It
Pokemon was
was.
spiking, little spikes, but it was spiking for sure. It was on an uptrend, right?
Yep.
Obviously nothing compared to post
No.
Paul, but there was an uptrend, whatever. And at that point, though, no one within the hobby was as embedded into the analytics and the
No.
markets to be aware of that. At least not like we are today, right? All the
Yeah.
channels and all the circles and whatnot. Like we didn't exist, so therefore, who was out there pumping this information? No one. So I would say, in general, people were unaware that these spikes were happening, right?
hmm
Unless you were already in it within yourself, just kind of
Yeah. Just
noticing,
doing.
hey, how come this card's going up?
No.
But there was this window where Pokemon was going up, collectibles was going up, and 2020 post COVID, people are at home, families are at home, and I think what happened there, right? People just for whatever reason, however it happened, people found Pokemon, and it was something that's very nostalgic for a lot of people of our generation, right? That first generation
No.
kids, it's very nostalgic, and so therefore, sure, let's throw in the variable of free money from Uncle Sam and all that good
Yeah.
stuff. Maybe that had a lot to do with it as well. But regardless, it's that good feeling. It's that
Yeah.
genuine happiness that a card, right? You're 35 years old here. You're 35 years old and you look at a freaking bill card from base set and it's nostalgic and it
That's
makes you
cool.
feel good.
hmm
So I'm thinking maybe that feeling lasts for a very, very long time. It's not just like a turn off switch. I'm sure that happened to a lot of people,
It did.
especially if you got burned. But if you didn't and you're comfortable and you're able to do this and it brings you genuine happiness and it's giving you that genuine feeling when you see these things, multiply it times however many people are in this hobby, things are
Yeah.
going to be, relatively healthy, and again, that retraction, that correction that happened in the markets was necessary because it was unhealthy when it was, at those crazy prices. But now I feel like it's still very healthy.
hmm
Other folks still say that there's still more, more downhill to go, but who knows? I'm the optimistic that says maybe not. Maybe
Yeah.
this is the flourish, and this is kind of going to maintain, and obviously depends on the collectible, but I think there's just way too many people in the hobby now.
I I tend to agree with you right now. I think there's a lot more people in this hobby than there's ever been. And the good news is that there's enough for people to do in this hobby, different directions, different things that they can do, that it keeps them entertained. And that's the biggest thing is that if you're entertained in what you do, you enjoy what you're doing. If you can just kind of play at your own pace, and that's the nice thing about Pokemon too, is that you could either be very aggressive, and you can try and move things, and you can try and flip, and you can try and work the markets to your advantage, or if you want to, just like me, I tend to be seasonal. If I'm busy at work, I have the ability to just go, I can do my YouTube channel, but I can back off, I can shut down my TCG player and I can, back down and I can just open some packs now and then and try and maybe get some of them little pull or chase cards when I'm bored or have a second with my kids, but I don't have to be fully engaged into the market side of things all the time. And that's the biggest thing is it's not like a job. It's not like some hobbies where you're kind of stuck in it. Once you start it, you're almost stuck with that. I have to do this or I'm going to get out of the path and I'm going to get out of the functions and I'm going to start falling behind everybody. The nice thing about Pokemon is Pokemon's Pokemon. Even coming back from 2006 to 2019, yes, the mechanics changed. The game did not. It is still the same game. There's different mechanics. Yeah, there's EX, GX, whatever you want to put into it. But overall, it's still the same. So when I came back in 2019, it just, like I said, I played the online. went and played a couple matches online and went, yeah, it's just Pokemon. Nothing changed. It's just the cards are different and the functions of the trainers are different. But realistically, it is a nostalgic thing that, okay, I know how to do this stuff. And that's the nice thing about a hobby like this is that, like you said, you could do different things. You could do different lanes. And you could all move at your own pace. And there's nobody going to get mad because, okay, I didn't buy 12 PSA 10 cards this month. I only bought 1.25. Who cares? You're doing it on your own. It's your own time and pace. It's not going to affect anything. It's your own hobby. It's your own course of how you want to do things.
Yeah, everything is customizable per the individual. It's not one way, it's not cookie cutter. There's so many ways to enjoy it. I mean, hell, you can enjoy and grab a piece of every single lane.
You can.
Collecting, raw, graded, sealed, vintage, modern. You could do it all. You could do it all, enjoy it all. So
definitely. I mean, there's just so many different options for everybody out there right now. Moving on to the questions, you pretty much answered the next two because the next one is what's the length of time that you did what you did before you got into the hobby, not to where you are in the hobby now, which of course you went through with your starting off with your base sets and your booster boxes and moving into slabs, which, I still laugh because slabs, when 2006 slabs were a thing, but if you ever filled out to get an actual slab back then, the internet was not what it is now. So you had to find a PSA authorized dealer. So you had to go there with your card, you filled out a form, and then you gave it to the guy behind there, and he put it all in, he sent packages, and he'd call you, a couple weeks, 3, sometimes once a month, he would do the package deal and send it out. And he'd call you up and go, yeah, your slab's back. So you went and picked up your slab and paid the $7 or $5 or whatever it was back in 2006. I don't even remember the price. But now you can just go ahead.
So first thing, I apologize for rambling on that I answered the entire interview, maybe probably.
Oh, no. That is absolutely fine because we haven't gotten to the last part.
That's just my nature. I apologize. But so you mentioned you were grading back in 2006?
I did not. I did some, not Pokemon, I did some sports cards back then.
Okay.
So awesome. I did back in not 2006, it was actually 2003, 2002, 2003. I graded some, like a Brett Favre card, Troy Aikman card. I was doing some Steve Young, some of the bigger quarterbacks back at that time, and then a couple rookie cards back then. So I was doing grading of sports cards, but once again, it was not a fun process, and I didn't do very much of it, and I think that's why you sit there and watch. I always laugh when people go, well, see, PSA wasn't that popular, and it kind of shows that flat line where they only did like 10,000 cards or 20,000 cards a year, and all of a sudden, like 2016, you see it start going up, and it's like, no, because that's when they started using the internet where I could sit at my desk and do this versus trying to find a PSA dealer, because that was the only way you could fill out the paper form. I don't know when they went to online, but back in the early 2000s, that was the only way to do it. So you had to go and actually find a dealer and fill out an actual handwritten form and then send that into PSA.
That's crazy. Yeah, I wonder when that happened. Because now, as you're telling this story, the only thing I can think of, where's Pokemon Gary in this? Like, is he also doing it, on paper? Like, who was he going to? They were doing major, cards back then, and a lot of them. So it's like, how was their process? Now I'm going to ask that question because
I would ask Gary when he started grading them. I don't know if he graded them. Did he do it right away?
I want to say it was like early 2000s.
Was it? Okay. Yeah. So I would be guessing that he was finding where's PSA located? How close is he to PSA?
California, and he's in Vegas.
Yeah, but I wouldn't think he'd drive up there for Pokemon cards back then. I mean, there was they weren't valued. They were like $5-10. I mean, it wouldn't be.
I'm gonna see him next weekend in Vegas.
I would ask him. I'm willing to bet he probably went to an authorized dealer back then and filled out the forms and probably sent them in to PSA via whatever authorized dealer he was using at the time.
Yeah, him and Birdman. Now I'm very curious. So yeah, I'm gonna have to ask him. I'll be hanging out with him next weekend, so I'm gonna definitely gonna ask him. I'm gonna interview him. I'm gonna have a few questions just based on this, the last 5-10 minutes because that's a very interesting. I
Yep.
never knew that. I never knew that. I mean, obviously there was a point when PSA first started, but I thought maybe that would have been back in the 90s or 80s. I don't even know how old PSA is, to be honest.
91, I believe.
91? Okay. So I would
So
have
I
thought they went
believe.
back further to like the 80s and 70s.
I don't think.
So
I think the PSA opened, if I remember right, it was either 91 or 93. Don't
okay.
quote me on it, but I know. I think it was early 90s.
Okay.
And like I said, I just know in high school when I could start driving, so it would have been around 2002, that there was an authorized PSA dealer in Ladysmith because there was an old timer that had a card shop, and that's how I ended up with Japanese Pokemon cards and my stuff. Because he would bring in Japanese sets too, and he always just enjoyed everything, so he had all kinds of sports cards. And he was a PSA authorized dealer, and maybe you could do it online. I don't know. I never did it online. I just knew that he had a little decal on the door that said PSA authorized, authorized user dealer or whatever they were called back then. And you went in there, and he had it would look like a invoice sheet with all the different. They were actually carbon copied, and you wrote down all the stuff. He took one copy, you had another copy, so you had the identification that you sent it, and then when you came back, it had a number on the top of the pad, and you came back to pick up your cards with that number on the top.
The good old days.
Yeah, the good old days with carbon copy, actual carbon copy. You
That's the price you had to pay to be able to get them in 2 weeks. You just had to do them all on paper. That's
just
all.
had to do them in paper with carbon copy. That was the way. So, and that, like I said, that was just my memory of PSA when I was doing those sports cards. Was that was the way. I mean, you had to go to a PSA authorized dealer, fill out the carbon copy with the number, and then that's how you knew it was your cards and how PSA tracked the cards. And when they came in, so that they got the orders right and everything, was all based on that identification number on the top of the PS. I should look. I just pulled out all my sports cards from. They're down here in a box. I wonder if I got one of those old PSA carbon copies in there. That'd be kind of funny. Probably wouldn't
That
be
would
able to
be
read it. It would just be black by now. But
that would be awesome if you could find that. That would be
yeah, that
cool.
would be funny if it still had one of those carbon copies sitting inside of there. So I just went through and I pulled out. I don't know what kind of condition
You
they're in.
should you should you should definitely find it and grade it.
The
Get it
PSA,
graded.
the carbon
Get it
copy.
graded by PSA. Yeah.
That would be funny. Can I get this graded and send it to them? They'd probably keep it as for their museum or something.
Hey, as long as they're paying you that
I was
price
gonna
tag.
say PSA grading for a year. Score.
Tell them you're the lowest on the market.
Yeah, I'm the cheapest on the market right now. So, all right. So moving on to the questions. The next one that's going to be the one I always say is probably the most difficult for most people is, of course, estimate hours worked to income per month in TCGs on average.
Yeah, so definitely very difficult, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't keep track. Maybe I should, right? Maybe when you're trying to be a business, you definitely should become more organized and more data oriented. But I definitely don't. I'm definitely not Dan Ketchum. Shout out Dan Ketchum. I'm definitely not Dan with his Excel sheets and from 6 to 7 I'm having breakfast, and then from 7:30 I'm talking to the wife, and then yeah, I'm definitely not that detailed. But on average per day, because I'm constantly on eBay, I've been like this forever. Um, PWCCs, heritage auctions, whatnot, uh, including whatnot, unfortunately. But I would say about 3 to 4 hours a day, solid. Just 3 to 4 hours a day. And sometimes just with no purpose other than let's see what's out there. Let's see what's in the next 24 hours. That's one of my favorite things to do yet is going on eBay, checking out what's on the next 24 hours. I'll go through the entire list of the next 24 hours. And if I see something interesting, I'll put it on my watch list. If I see something interesting that's ending within the next 24 hours, and it's low, it's cheap, I'm gonna, go on there 99 out of 100 times. they're going to go for what they go for, right? They're going to go
Yep.
for what they need to go for, or the actual price. But you never know when you're going to strike, a nice and get a nice deal on one of these cards. And it's just doing this that kind of gets me, gets me the pulse of, the markets and what are cards doing. Again, because I'm not data oriented, nor am I keeping this data anywhere other than my brain, and you only have so much room in there
Storage.
that exactly that it all goes away. But sometimes here and there something will click. But 3 to 4 hours a day, I would say based on my, what I've only been doing this for 2 to 3 months as far as like really seriously,
Pushing it.
half seriously trying to sell, flipping, buying, flipping, grading, and all that good stuff. For the past 90 days, I'm scratching that 5K mark. And that's just kind of me. And I don't know if that's good or not, because I know some folks would blow me out of the water.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of me doing the baby steps and doing maybe not the bare minimum, but very, I'm not being as risky, I guess, as I could be, but also because I'm not, to be honest, 100% confident that I can do this. That's actually what held me back a little bit, was just like, I can't do that. I can't pre-grade. I can't grade on my own. I've been buying the greatest slabs, and that's just the easiest route for me. But it just kind of took that, making that plunge into the actually doing it, grading it yourself, sourcing the cards. So yeah, the last 3 months, 5K. If I average about 3 to 4 hours a day, it's probably very bad hourly rates, but again, it's yeah, that's pretty.
It's not too bad. I mean,
Well, now we have to do the math. Let's
I
see.
was gonna say I don't have my phone on me. I left it upstairs so it doesn't ring. But
So that's let's see here. Let's see if we can break. Oh man, are we gonna break it down by hourly? That's gonna be
just do it by day. Got 90
a day.
days.
All right, so 90 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
90 days. I'm gonna call it just an even 5K. So $55 a day. Now break that down 4 hours. I'm making $11 an hour, or 11 and change.
Yeah.
That's what's minimum wage today? What's minimum?
What is it? 750.
Oh, I'm way above those guys.
Yeah, you're beating them guys.
I'm killing those guys. Yeah. So, but once again, it's one of those things where it's fun.
Mhm.
I'm just not completely committed to it. It's almost like I'm taking it step by step. I'm taking it step by step. And believe it or not, so I've gathered all of this information, markets, keeping track of them, obviously grading and flipping, and how to grade, via all these channels that provide all that great information. Believe it or not, I'm doing more of it, not in Pokemon, but in Metazoo.
Oh,
Because Metazoo is allowing me another lane that is really the playing aspect. Because I'm really into the playing aspect. I mean, I'm really out there grinding out freaking tournaments, trying to at least. And just being in that world of the player, I still think very differently than 99% of the players out there. But based on what the players want, and I can hear it, I see it every single tournament. There's like a trade hour, whether it's pre or after. I mean, there's always pre and after, trade hours.
yeah.
I get a sense of what the players want. And based on the information that I've gathered in Pokemon,
Yep.
I actually translate that over to Metazoo. And because in Metazoo, no one's doing it. My only competition is Dan, and I'm trying to figure out how to take Dan down. It's shout out Dan.
Dan again.
I love you, Dan. No, Dan cannot be taken down. And honestly, I'm doing it very differently than he is. Because again, right, we were talking about how many different lanes there are in hobbies. Even though he's doing the same thing, right? He has partnership. That's an amazing deal for him, for his business, and being able to, he cracks, he breaks boxes, grades the hits, players, and collectors want him alike. I have a certain lens, if you will. I have a certain view that no one else gets unless you're playing, and that's the view of the player. And so there are very specific, very even within Metazoo niche cards that Metazoo players require. They
Yeah.
need in their decks. I'm the type that says, give me the $15 version of this deck versus, the real players out there, as I like to call them, $1,500 decks. It's the same deck, it's the same card, but
Yeah.
just like in Pokemon, I'm sure that exists. You got your hollow or your non-hollow,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So people want
Absolutely.
the hollow version, right?
Or
Or
there's a
players.
rainbow rare or gold, or there's the V star V whatever. There's always the different rarities to them, but they do the exact same thing.
Exactly. And so in MetaZoo, that's not the case within the sets. Those specific cards exist outside of the sets. And they are produced in many different ways and released in many different ways. The casual person within hobbies trying to flip and trying to engage in different TCGs, there's
Yeah.
no way that you're going to find that information unless you're with these people, unless you're
Huh.
deep into the hobby. And so, from that standpoint, because I'm right there, I mean, again, 90 days, 5K, I want to say like four of those are easily Metazoo, and it's because,
Yeah.
and it's just being involved with the hobby. So, it's easier for sure. It's almost like easy mode right now.
Mhm.
And I'm definitely diving in deeper to the point I'm not as I'm not going to take as much risk with Pokemon today. I'm still not that confident, but yet I just made a few transactions, four figures on both ends for Metazoo, single cards, raw. Price points essentially came out to like $50 a card. If I pre-graded some and sent them off, the ones that didn't, I'm selling them raw 225. All
Okay.
day, every day. And I had a bunch of them. And I'm still selling them off. There's this other card, and those freaking things are going for $300. That's ungraded.
Wow.
Then you grade them, and then it's bonkers, right? And so I just started getting those cards back, the ones that are graded. Literally within the last 2, maybe 3 weeks, I've been getting the first Metazoo slabs back. I don't. I'm not even confident that I'm going to put them in auction, just because these items are in such demand and so
Yeah.
scarce that I don't know if I want to put them on auction. I think we're just going to put them on bin prices, right? Because I think that
Yeah.
just makes more sense, one at a time. It's really crazy. Sorry, Metazoo family, but I've always said, and I've said this to a few of them, Metazoo markets are irrational, and this is
Yeah.
already an irrational. I mean, collectibles is an irrational thing, correct? I mean, especially for the prices that we're paying for, even if it is $20, that's
Oh yeah.
irrational for plastic and cardboard. But let alone 400, 500, $600. And it's a little irrational, but look, the way I see it is the markets don't care about your feelings, regardless of what I
No.
think of what something should go for or not. The markets are going to do what they do. And I'm just kind of glad that I'm using a lot of the information that I gained through the Pokemon hobby, and I'm just using it over into the MetaZoo. And it's freaking awesome. I'm having fun. I mean, obviously, it's very fun when you're, making those very easy plays or very fun plays where no one's getting in your way. There's a lot of competition in Pokemon, but yeah, it's crazy how that works. It's crazy, but I'm definitely dabbling in both, but it's easily like 75% MetaZoo right now.
Well, it's really cool that you're able to take your what, almost 10 years, 11, 9 years, 10 years of Pokemon experience and knowledge, and move it into a new TCG and actually be successful. And like you said, in TCG in its infancy stage, if you could use your knowledge from an experienced TCG and move it into there, there's definitely some great opportunities, which is fantastic that you've been able to do that. And like you said, maybe you won't go back to your job now. Maybe you'll just start selling all these little graded cards and just sit at home. Like, be like Dan, grow a big beard, just fill out nice with a beard, and then you'll be all set.
I'm trying. I'm trying. That's maybe the next step. I'm trying.
You're gonna start beard oil. Come on.
Yeah.
So, but no, it's really interesting how that does work, and And it's good. It's interesting that it does work so well. And sometimes it's funny how irrational some sections can be when it comes down to a market. You sit there and look at how irrational it was at the end of 2020 all the way into 2021 with Pokemon, and eventually that people are rational thought process should kick in and they should stop and start thinking about stuff. But it's just a question sometimes of how long will that train run? How long will that continue to happen before they finally catch on? So
Yeah.
no, it's fantastic that you're able to do that, and definitely switching over into that, doing that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's awesome having these conversations. There's a few people like anywhere else that are, once I start talking market talk,
Yeah.
they're like, whoa, like what's this? And some people are then very interested, right, in the market aspect of it. And other people just kind of walk off and like, what the hell is he talking about? Let's
Yeah,
get
well, this
out of
is a
here.
game.
Like,
What are
we're
you
just
talking
collecting,
about
bro.
this?
Like we're just collecting, bro. What are you talking about? And but no, the few people that are willing to listen, I got a PSA 10 on this one card. I think I have it here somewhere. And it's a very rare pull from a subset from a Hero Quest. It's Hero. It's the Steve Aoki animated version.
Okay.
So he made himself, or
Yep.
the team, however that came about, he made himself into the superhero of the set, Hero Quest, and he's called Hero, and he's the pool of the set. So again, I to be honest, full transparency, I got super lucky in this one buy because I bought about 40 packs, and they're all single packs. You have to buy the CD. Each CD contained a pack. Okay.
Okay.
Each I bought 40 packs. Out of the 40 packs, I pulled 13 of those.
Wow.
When I pulled those cards were going between $250 and $300. My cost basis per pack or per CD, however you want to look at it, $7. So very easy based on what I've learned,
Yeah.
right? It's like, get it out of here. Get it out of here. Give it to them.
Yep.
And then I learned, yes, they're actually very rare. So I got one of those, as Dan knows now, is like Metazoo has a clump issue, problem. Maybe it's intended, whatever, but they clump a lot. And so I pulled these cards. I pre-graded a handful, sent them off to PSA. I just got those back a couple weeks ago. All of them tens except for one, a nine. And the nine right now is sitting at 125, maybe, so somewhere in there. But I was talking to a friend, and these guys were like, "Oh crap, a PSA 10! Like, you should definitely keep one. You should keep all of them." And I was like, "No, I gotta get rid of all of them." He goes, "But why? They're worth X much." And I was like, "Exactly."
That's why I need to go.
But so then I explained, it was like, when when the market values an item way more than you value it, that's when it's your hint to just get
Yep.
rid of it.
Just go.
Right, get rid of it. And if someone's willing to pay for it, hey, it's going to a good home. If they want it for that price, it's going to a good home.
Yep.
And I was explaining all these things, and they're just like shocked at like to hearing this information, or lingo or angles on why you should sell something like that versus keeping it. And it just goes to show that there's still plenty of people that, like them, they were very interested, they were very engaged in the conversation, but still don't know the financial investing markets that have existed for X amount of time, and how you should go about them and navigate these markets,
Yeah.
especially from a business standpoint, yeah. So, will I keep one? I don't know, maybe, because I mean, I've already paid for everything easily, but it's like, nah, I just can't. Doesn't get rid of it.
No.
Get it out of here.
Just go. Yeah. And I mean, that's the biggest thing is that it is a really hard learning curve to go through. Is that you always think that you could get a little more on something, or you could get a little bit more if I hold on to it. And that's the hardest thing is, you even on my channel I've said, when it hits a point when I buy an item, so I go and buy a booster box of something, and like Evolving Skies was a perfect example. I did a video back in March on when it hit 180 the last time that I had sold, 5 booster boxes total. I had 10, but I sold 5 cases worth of Evolving Skies $180. And someone just came back and went, I bet you feel stupid selling it for that price now. And it's like, no, I don't. I paid $100. My intention was if it crossed, for me, Evolving Skies, when it crossed 175, I was going to sell it. I didn't care, to me at 175 for a modern booster box that was just over a year old, not even a year old. I mean, at that point, it was only 6, 7 months old, and it crossed 175. It's overvalued. It, modern sets can get reprinted. Modern sets
Yeah.
could be buried in product. You don't know when that could or when it will happen. It will happen. It's just a matter of how much product will come and how much, how many times it'll happen.
Yeah.
When it hits a certain point and any kind of value, and it hits, in my mind, set a value and go for it. Like you said, when it goes over that value that you think that it's worth, it's time to go. It needs to get out of here as fast as it can. Now, when I look at investing side of things, I still kept 5 back. I knew overall that, my intentions are, and even this year, I used to keep 2 Evolving Skies. I love the set. It's Evolution, so I kept 5 because that's just what I enjoy. But, trying to keep some back at all times just because you don't know futuristically how high some of this stuff may actually get. Some of it may never move.
Yeah.
But on averages, at least some of them will go up based on popularity.
And there's always that risk, like, obviously the obvious equation that goes, or I'm not going to say obvious for everyone, but the one that goes through my head is, okay, I get the sentiment that if it's worth X amount today, in today's financial markets for that
Yep.
matter, then wouldn't it be more down the road? And there's definitely a risk of me selling it at today's price and missing out on tomorrow's doubled price, right? For
Mm-hmm.
sure. But once again, being in this hobby for X amount of time and
Yeah.
the last 2 or 3 years of content and all the great, great content creators that really share the knowledge of how to drive markets and whatnot, it's okay. It's okay to not catch
Yep.
the next wave,
There's always
because
another one.
as one of the more famous quotes in sports collecting, it's you never go broke taking a profit. You never go broke taking a profit. So it's like, you know what? Why get greedy? I'm taking a very, very healthy profit right
Yep.
now per card. So it's like, let's just do it. If the person that I sold it to can double his money in a month, I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. If you could do it and it works out for you, great. I'm going to take my profits where I can get them. If I get them, I'm not going to sit there and look a gift horse in the mouth. I've had people ask, do you regret selling things too early? No. I sell and I don't look back. It is what it is. I made my profit, whatever it was. Whatever I decided was good profit on it, I sold it. I'm happy. I got my profit, and I don't sit there and regret. Yeah, I could have kept those 5 cases back and sold 10 of them at around $280 now. But I still made healthy profit, and I'm still happy with the way that things turned out. So I'm not going to sit there and regret it.
And we're speaking of like the best case scenarios. You get rid of
Oh
it
yeah,
today. You got your profit. You're happy, and then it doubled tomorrow. But also,
worst
as
case.
again, part of that equation is the opposite side.
Mm-hmm.
Is that you keep it because you think it's going to go up, and then tomorrow it's 50% less,
Yep.
and then you're like, I should have sold it a month
Yep.
ago.
See, now I'm
So
10% down instead of being 40% up. Yeah. You
exactly.
could always sit there and play that game, and that's just it. I mean, that. It depends on your risk tolerance and what you're willing to risk. If you see a market going up, but then some people always say, well, when you see it going down, you can always sell at that point. Yeah, but then people are trying to value buy, and then they just wait to see where the wave goes down. So then you may never sell it. It may become very solid as not a liquid investment anymore because hey, everybody's waiting to see how far this will drop before it catches, and you could be sitting on it forever waiting for that potential, like you said, and you go backwards because you waited too long in that. And it's like I said, I guess I'm not that risky of a person. I know some people would sit there and say, "Well, I'm going to hold it for 10 years no matter what." And some of my stuff, it is my intention, and I forget about it. But if you're trying to use the hobby to either A, do income with it, or B, grow your collection. So 2019, I have probably 4 times more stuff than I did at the beginning of 2020.
Yeah.
It's just, sold when it was good, buy more later. There's always the next opportunity that's going to come around at the end of the
And
day.
you hit it on the head there. Just being a collector for so long, a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of me, and then as PK would say, that I'm an investor. I don't see myself as an investor, but I'm an investor by default, because if you're
Mm-hmm.
keeping collectibles for a long period of time and you're never thinking of selling, the trend is that they're going to keep going up, and so therefore you're an investor by default.
Yep.
But I never see myself that way, and but regardless, a little bit in me says I should keep one of those cards, right? I
Mm-hmm.
should keep one of those PSA 10s because they already paid for that and then some, and tuck it away. Tuck it away, even if it's for something that I don't care for. If it's something I don't care for, just tuck it away, because you never know. But you hit it right on the head. As I'm trying to experiment here, and I'm definitely not at the point where I can call it,
Yeah.
a financially stable, even from a just, I just want to pay the bills. Like, I'm not even there yet, just to pay the bills and
Yep.
get by. But it's still literally like a side hobby. I would need a full-time job on top of that. But if I want to get there, I can't hold an item like that when it can supplement
Your
the
income.
the right, it can supplement the income, it can supplement the business, if I may, and buy more cards, buy them for cheap, and pay for the grading, and then that turns into a 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x. So that's how kind of how I'm looking at it. So definitely I've seen the evolution, pun intended, within my
Collection format.
not even collection format. It's just the way that I navigate just the hobby itself. It's definitely shifted, because I've definitely put not the brakes, but I've slowed down heavily in Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
One, because of Metazoo, once again, it's just I am playing the TCG. I'm playing it competitively. That alone takes a lot of time. But then in my little time, because I found this lane that's just become very easy, I focus all of my time there primarily, just based on how I navigate it. It's just very interesting how I've definitely evolved, and how I navigate the markets today. But
Yeah.
again, not yet confident, not yet fully engaged, where I'm willing to really drop the hammer, on
And
on some
go.
of these
Yeah.
things. Baby steps, baby steps.
No, and a lot of times that's what it takes. Take your time, pick your lanes, make sure you're comfortable in them before you really get aggressive with the accelerator. Because there's, like I said, there's always the next thing. Even
Yeah.
if you don't get aggressive on this one and you get confidence out of it, and it takes you 2, 3 of these items to become confident, you always have that ability that, okay, I know how this works after 3 times of these opportunities. Fourth one, I'm willing to put the hammer down. I feel confident now in it that I can go and be successful at this. And then you could really start to, I want to say, blossom or evolve into something bigger by doing so.
And you know what? Just for this, on the in the spirit of teaching, and teaching the crowds of what to do or what to look out for. Um, Literally, because that one went so well. The next set, which happened to be the Halloween set,
Mm-hmm.
I did the exact same thing. The same cost basis that I had on the original one, I did for the Halloween set.
Yep.
Halloween set completely flopped.
Flopped. Yeah.
Flopped. Completely flopped. So there you go. It's not just all wins. It's you
No.
take those losses, but my risk, my essentially I took profits even from that one buy, and I put it into this, but it was the same cost basis. It's not like I went just all of a sudden crazy and just triple
Tripled,
it, quadruple
quadrupled.
it, and buy
Yeah.
everything. No, I actually bought the same quantity, money wise, and it just flopped. It just flopped, and it didn't work out, because it's still based on what's inside the product, and it's not like they showcase the entire set. It's not like in Pokemon where we see the entire set, right?
Yep.
In Japan, we see those versions and we know exactly what to
What's coming?
expect. In Metazoo, they'll show you a handful, but then the remaining 90% of the cards you don't know. And so you're kind of
Okay.
banking on, right, just based on the last sets, like, oh, they're gonna have something great, and no, the Halloween set just completely
Didn't have
flopped.
any of it.
But it
Yep.
was it was a risk assessment that I took, and essentially it was zero risk based on the last play that I made. And but yeah, that was a lesson in itself, that not every single set, not every single play is going to play out
Yep.
as you
And
like
they
that.
don't. No matter how much we want them to. Some plays you think will be, you know, huge advantages. end up not panning out because of whatever reason. Like you said, something's missing, or some drive factor isn't there, or something that, you know, would draw people in, didn't draw people in. I mean, sometimes we make risk assessments even on actual sets themselves, even in Pokemon. You pick cards that you think are going to be chase cards in those sets. Now, what happens when that chase card is overprinted? You know, in the mind of a chase card. So all of a sudden it goes from being a chase card to everybody has it. So perfect example of that is, I always laugh, is Pokemon Go. That Mewtwo card, that alternate art. It was a chase card. It's the biggest card of the set, the most popular Pokemon in that set, and you would think that it would be a fairly rare pull. But no, everybody had a Mewtwo alternate art. It was a very common pull actually in the set. So once again, it's one of them things that, you know, you could try and predict, and it really depends on how the TCG producer puts out the product at the end of the day, and what they put out there as hits, and what people perceive as being rare, or the rarity of actual cards.
Another great example, and not to keep stretching this,
Nope.
conversation, but once again, in the spirit of, teaching the folks that are watching this,
Yep.
and keeping it in Pokemon, it's, how did the UPC Zard turn out? And
Yep.
everyone made that play based on what? The Celebrations UPC.
Correct.
Right? They saw the Celebrations UPC and what that did. So they saw the translation on the wall. It's like, you know what? Let's move this over to UPC. It's going to do the same thing. Let's buy them all out. Hell, I made the play. And just to see what would happen, and it just wasn't the case, because one, people weren't expecting as many to be printed.
Yep.
It was as readily as available. The freaking shelves just kept getting restocked.
It just kept coming,
and people still kept buying them and grading them and buying them and grading them, and obviously the market shows, right? The grading market shows on those cards.
Yep.
And it's just another perfect example of just human nature, I guess, right? Psychology. It says, oh, if it worked for this one thing, it's gonna work for
again.
the next thing, and it just doesn't work that way.
And I've been quiet about it, and someone pointed it out to me, about a month before that Charizard UPC was released. I put out a video that said, hey, this thing is not like the Celebrations UPC. It's not, guys. It doesn't have the gold cards that are hard to replicate. Trying to make matching batches of those gold cards with the, acrylic colors and the epoxy and everything like that is very difficult to do, to get it matching correctly. Because when you think about it, you're going to make one batch and they're all going to be matched within a certain precision level. Then you make another batch, trying to match that coloration and match everything right is very difficult when it comes down to those kind of them unique items like that. Yep. And I remember I said, be careful. This thing could go below MSRP depending on the print level. You could see pallets of this thing in Target, and there would be so many of it that you could lose value on these things. And I had so many people on there going, no, you're crazy. This thing I guarantee will never go below some MSRP. This thing is a fantastic buy. It's going to just shoot. It's going to be $200 in a couple months. And it's like, I didn't buy a huge position in it. My gut instinct told me that this thing is a death trap when it comes down to that initial really fast investment. If you want to go long term, I think it has good long term potential. I really do. I think right now is the time when I've been buying them, just because if you can pick them up for $70-$80, that's the time to jump in.
Is that where they're at?
They were down at Cyber Monday, the week of Cyber Monday. I picked up 4 of them for $70. That was at the Black Friday, and then they had it was like $89.99 for the Black Friday Cyber Monday on the one site, and then they had a $20 coupon for any order over $100.
Nice.
So, I just bought, I guess it was like $65 or $75 a piece roughly is what I got them for. So it's like, still, I mean, you sit there and look at it going, that, and then of course, like Dan has said on those things too. People want, well, now they're worthless. Why would I'm buying these things at $80, guys. Even the packs inside of there are valued at just about that price, so you're not going wrong. Why are you running from this thing when it's under MSRP, but when it was $200, it was the best play in the world? There's
because when it's, and I know Dan, and I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
I know Dan brings that point of like, if you were confident at 100, and I don't even know what the high was at release.
210?
150? Oh, 210?
There was 210 pre-orders.
Oh, Jesus. I thought 150, because what were they? 125, right? 124.
119.99 is what they.
119.99. So I'm thinking 150 was like, okay, 200. Let's call it 200. If
Yep.
you were confident buying at 200, why aren't you confident at 70, right? And
Yeah.
again, it's psychology. Like,
It really
I'm
is.
no expert in psychology, but I love psychology. I love human nature and human behavior.
Hmm.
When it's at $70, it doesn't scream
It's.
investable. It
I know
doesn't
it doesn't.
scream that I can make money on this if it's already dirt cheap, right?
Yep.
When it's $200 and it hasn't even come out yet, that says it's gonna balloon.
Yeah.
Once I
It's gonna
get my
explode.
hands on it and Timmy doesn't have his, I'm gonna be able to sell it to him for 300. But then
Yep.
what happens? Johnny gets it for 200 and Timmy gets it for freaking 190 and everyone else at 150. And then the people that waited exactly how they should have, they got it for MSRP at 119,
Yep.
or
Or
they could have
less.
went to their local Target and find 50 of them at any point. And now that everyone has them, the guy that has it, that bought it for 200 is stuck with his $200
Yep.
UPC. Granted, a lot of people were making the grading plays first to market, right?
Yep.
Grade it, crack it, grade it, send it out,
Get it.
get it
Get
as
it
fast as
back.
possible. That's definitely a play.
That was.
But
Yep.
once again, I said this during, I believe it was on Peaks Live. I believe it was his live. I said it even before it came out and released. We were talking about it. We were all going to make the play. I said it scares me based on what I've learned so far. Jake has mentioned this a few times. This is big in just investing in stocks, right? When everyone's doing the one thing, when everyone's running rights, you go left.
Yeah.
When everyone's selling, you buy. When
Correct.
everyone's buying, you sell,
So.
right?
Yep.
And so for the UPCs, it was like, if we're all freaking doing it, granted, we're all in our echo chambers and what have you, but if we're all doing it, there's plenty of people out there trying to do it because of what they know now, right? The cat's out of the bag, the
Yeah.
investing, cat and all that good stuff and flipping. So if everyone's doing it, then I don't think this is going to be as great as as we say it's going to be.
Hmm.
And listen, I made the play. I'm barely breaking even on it, and that's just because I decided not to sell the packs. I was peer pressured into opening every single Evolving Skies on one of my lives, and then the remaining packs, I was going to sell them, and then me and my daughters just opened them all up, which was great. It was a
It
great
was fun.
experience, but and then yeah, some people sold the sleeves. I essentially kept everything because I like the dice, and now that I'm playing the TCG, I'm actually incorporate
Using them.
those into Metazoo as damage counters and whatnot. Anyway, barely breaking even, but that's why one of the biggest things in this, right, when you're trying to flip, when you're trying to make money off of it, is just what's your risk tolerance. And the way I see it, even within collectibles, broken record here. Uh, when you buy something, it's zero in your hands
Correct.
until you're able to sell it and get whatever you're able to get
Yep.
back. But as long as it's in your hands,
It's
it's
valid.
zero, and
It's
you
zero.
should
Yep.
see it as zero. And even if you want to go the next route, oh, it's still worth $100. Okay, cool. But then let's play. Then what I would say is then expect that $100 real market value to be down to $50 now or
Yep.
$25 because you never know how something drastic can drop. So yeah, don't expect it to be $100 because you got it at $100. Expect it to go down 50% at the minimum.
Yep.
And if you can survive that, then yeah, make that play. And as long as
Do it.
as long as you can survive that hit, then by all means. But some people don't think of the negatives,
No.
they don't apply the worst case scenarios into their equation, and they're heavy on the positives and it's too light on the negatives.
Yeah. And that's what always worried me, and that's, like I said, was one of the reasons I really started to evolve my channel from an opening channel into this. With my son, I was opening packs all the way up until like August of 2021. And I said, the problem is that so many people are doing things, even calling it an investment, but it's really not an investment because they're just doing risky moves. And yeah, one out of every three pans out and they break even. And that's in the current market. What happens when this market stalls and it goes back to a more normal market? I knew people personally that were spending $10,000 on credit cards to buy Pokemon products because they were going to invest them and then flip them really, 3-4 months down the line. And yeah, with the interest, I'm going to make this much money. And it's like, yeah, if the market holds up, what happens if that market, they were buying Battle Styles when it first came out. That was one of their big plays, was buying Battle Styles booster boxes. And I was like, You're crazy. I said, you don't know that those boxes, at what point does the printer kick back in? And as Rudy would say, the printer goes burr, and pretty soon you're buried in this stuff. And then sure enough, what happened, right there in May, right 2 months or 3 months after Battle Styles was released, they got a print to order. So literally, they ran them printers to death, got in a position and ran them things so that every booster box that had been ordered, with people ordering allocation, hoping they get like 10% of it or 15% of it, now got all of it in just one big slug. And it was like this guy's booster boxes he was buying at $160, $150 a booster box in March for Battle Styles was now set. I was buying them at $72 a piece. It's like, how many years could they be sitting with that interest rate going on those booster boxes
Oh man,
before
I
it gets
remember
back?
that. I remember that time frame, and actually, I'm not gonna. Yeah, I don't remember the actual time frame, like month wise, but
Yeah.
I do remember Mason was talking about it. Right, he made a video that all of a sudden they got smacked with
Oh yeah.
like 3 or 4 orders. Like, yep, you're gonna get this, and you're gonna have to get it. You're gonna have to take it, right?
Well, that was yeah, that was right before Celebrations was released. They had the reprint, another reprint for Battle Styles. This was like more product for Battle Styles. Chilling Rain and Evolving Skies, and I think Shining Fates even got some inside of there. There was just a massive. That's actually how I got in with my LGS back then. So my LGS got slammed because they were ordering so much and they were only getting 5-10% of their allocations, maybe 15% on a good order of their allocations for what they were trying to order. And like they said, what ended up happening is that they printed all these sets to whatever the orders were out there, and they went, "It's yours. You ordered it. You got to take it. You don't have a choice. You already ordered it." And here they are. So that's where I talked to the LGS earlier and left my name and number, and he called me up and said, "Dude, what could you take? I will sell them to you for what I paid for them if you will come here and pick some of this up, just because I need money. This literally just drained everything out of my accounts. It sucked me dry, and I need to find a way to get back that income, that cash flow back into my business, or I'm going to have to claim bankruptcy here in a couple months because I'm not going to be able to pay the rent with how much money they just took from me for these products." And that's the biggest thing is that that's, one of those things. People don't realize how quickly that turned in Pokemon TCG from everything being profitable. If you could find a product at Walmart at MSRP, you could sell it for twice the price the same day, to all of a sudden you were drowning in Pokemon product and it just tanked all of the modern market.
I don't remember whose live it was, because we were just all on so many, right? But
Yeah.
uh, I remember saying this was my gut feeling theory, and I don't know if it holds true in general, but I said something along the lines of, with modern still going, still being in a very healthy, maybe over healthy, price point. I said all of this is going to dry up. I have this feeling, again, just being a fan of psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Once Celebrations comes through and goes, that's going to be it. Because Celebrations in my head was like the Super Bowl.
Yep.
What happens after the Super Bowl? It's just this dead freaking,
Dead space.
amount of space that, big void, and it can't be filled unless Pokemon can pull something out of their behinds. And it kind of happened. Again, I don't know if it holds really that true, because I mean, again, Pokemon's still here and it's still very healthy, and
Yeah.
and modern is still in demand.
Yep.
But as far as the craze goes, I feel like that Celebration set is what pretty much was the last set that really people had a huge
Mm-hmm.
craze, a spike. Maybe the UPC, the Charizard UPC kind of brought it back to life a little bit. But yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that Celebration set was really the one that kind of crashed into the wall for modern, and now everything's just kind of back to that MSRP.
Yep.
MSRP, everything's at MSRP, whatever that MSRP today means, but
Yeah.
it's there now. And Celebrations came and went.
Yep.
People got bored of it really quick
It was
because
so
it was a
small.
very small set. It was very repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
And, me and my girls, we bought X amount of product to equal 120 packs. And we opened it all up, and by half of the freaking, opening, we were like, oh, this is so repetitive. At this point, we're just
I'm
hoping
so
for the
tired of seeing
Charizard.
Palkia. I'm so
Yeah, at this point, we're just chasing the Charizard, and we didn't even pull it in 120 packs.
yeah,
But yeah, I just remember that time frame very, very distinctly because all of these things happening, all of
yeah,
distributors, just said, nope, here you go, here's everything, and you got to take it. And
yep.
celebrations just being kind of that end of the modern, or that hype, I should say, hype. Because I don't. What do you think? Like, do you think it's still in that hype like it was the sets right before celebrations or after, or is it more like back to normal MSRP prices?
I want to say it's between. Would probably be
Okay.
the best way. It's nowhere near what it was like prior to 2020. You know, before October 2020, you used to buy a booster box, and a booster box wouldn't move in value for quite a bit of time. I mean, it'd go up a little bit depending on the popularity of the playability of the set, but it really didn't have like the drive that we do now with like the alternate arts. So Cosmic Eclipse was a perfect example of it. You could buy Cosmic Eclipse everywhere in 2019 when it was released. Granted, when everybody moved into Pokemon, that set got completely demolished. But a lot of people forget that there's alternate arts inside of Cosmic Eclipse. That's actually where it came from. Cosmic Eclipse actually had alternate arts and Trainer Gallery all in the same set. So realistically, it's just the same as a modern set. It's just they revamped the alternate arts, in my opinion, to make them even better. But, you know, what I'm seeing is in the market currently is that sets come out, Pokemon has been shorting, especially booster boxes still. Pokemon seems to be focusing more on ETBs. So if we see reprints come out, so for example, Evolving Skies, we got a very small booster box reprint, but yet they printed pallets of ETBs for Costco. So Costco and all these places had ETBs all over the place. So the ETB market tanked, but the booster box market did not. And it seems to
And
be
it's been going up.
it's been going. I mean, booster box in the market's been going crazy on all things because actually, even Mason, I think, did a video not too long ago where he was saying, booster box shortage. They're just not around. And I mean, I even talked to my friend in the LGS. Yeah, they've just got in what do they call it? Crown Zenith. Wow, I'm already having a brain fart on Crown Zenith. But Crown Zenith came out, and they've got that a little bit of that in stock still, and they're still selling it to LGSs that are looking for it beyond what they ordered. But they have hardly any booster boxes left. They got some Astral Radiance left, and they have some Fusion Strike left. But they said they've got a few cases of Brilliant Stars. But he said everything else is gone. So they said we don't have any booster boxes to be sending to LGSs. And we're starting to see that in the prices. I mean, even now, you're starting to see Astral Radiance. We're seeing Lost Origin. Even Silver Tempest prices are going up extremely quick comparatively to what we used to see in the past. So, like I said, it's not as hyped and FOMOed as it used to be. We aren't seeing a booster box come out and go to 180 in a couple months. We're seeing that slow, gradual progression, and people are still excited to get new sets. People are still excited for them trainer galleries, and people are excited for the alternate arts that are coming inside of this. So Pokemon is doing a good job of keeping both the tournament players and the collectors engaged inside of this market. So they're kind of, it seems like in a way Pokemon's almost started to turn towards investors a little bit. I don't think that they consider them a huge part of their market. I think they're more still focused on the players. But definitely with these alternate arts, the more and more they keep coming, the more and more they seem like they make one more difficult to pull. So like the Garantina V is more difficult to pull because they know that's a fan favorite Pokemon, and the tendency is that that's going to draw in investors, which is going to move more product, which in turn is going to make them more money and get that product out of there. But if they're going to do that, they need to get product back so people can get it.
Yeah.
So
I had a question. I don't know if I may.
Yeah.
When do you think Pokemon will make commons and uncommons look like today's V's, or from process? Like, do you think it will ever get that? Get to that point where they need to make commons and uncommons sexier?
No, I don't think so.
No.
The only reason that commons and uncommons are in there are for gameplay. I mean, realistically, they're there, especially now that we're going back to the evolutionary standard. You're going to need those for your evolutionary lines. But realistically, there's no reason to make those really flashy.
Okay.
So I think you're going to continue to see, EX, whatever versions they were going to have this coming up here. You're going to see the different, still similar lineups when you come down to it for evolutions and things like that. So no, I don't. The only thing they're doing is silver borders now. So Scarlet and Violet will have silver borders versus the yellow borders. So that'll be a little bit flashier. I think I have a love hate relationship with that because I do think that always sets the two apart very quickly. Is that Japanese was silver, English was yellow, but I do say that a lot of the alternate arts and a lot of the other cards kind of look like crap with a yellow border. Even like the trainer gallery, the Japanese version of the trainer galleries, all the cards look very sharp and clean with that silver border, and then you get the same trainer gallery card in English with that yellow border, and all of a sudden it just takes away from how well that card looks.
I can't wait for the kids of today, 20 years later, saying like, oh yeah, like, silver borders, that was us,
Yeah,
and
we
then
were, we were the silver border generation.
and, and then us 50-year-olds are gonna be like, no, dude, like it's still yellow borders.
It's
Yellow
yellow
borders is
border all day.
vintage. Yellow borders, vivid voltage,
Shaking her cane
vintage.
at them. So, but yeah, that's pretty much, I think the Pokemon's in a good spot. I do think that they need to turn up the printers a little bit, and some people had some valid points that I don't think they wanted to turn the printers on until Crown Zenith got released. Once Crown Zenith hit the market, they didn't want to sit there and do an Evolving Skies or a Brilliant Stars reprint right before Crown Zenith or be announced while Crown Zenith is being rolled out. Because can you imagine how much that would take away from Crown Zenith if someone announced, yeah, we're having an Evolving Skies reprint coming in February? Well, I'm not buying that much Crown Zenith. I'm going to hold my money and hope that, Evolutions comes out at a decent price and I can get some allocation or some position in that again. So that part of me, I think I agree with that sentiment. Is I think Pokemon has enough people on the ground and enough knowledge to know, hey, Evolving Skies is $300, almost a booster box. Let's not announce a reprint of that set until after a month of Crown Zenith being out there.
They definitely know what they're doing.
Yeah, they ain't dumb.
On PK's lives X amount of time ago, when that one Zard, special delivery Charizard,
Yep.
there were a handful, right, that made it out.
Yep.
I think by accident,
Oops.
right, by Pokemon,
Yep.
by accident. And
Accident.
yeah, so right, exactly, right, conspiracy head, right, exactly. Yeah. So accidentally, a few folks got got their hands on these. They got them in their packages, and fast forward, they're worth, I don't know. I think we were talking about like $500, $1,000. They went raw.
Oh yeah.
And then graded. Someone mentioned a crazy number. I'm not even gonna
I don't know.
throw in arbitrary numbers, but it was a crazy number. So then we were saying, if that card came up today, because that was X amount of time before, if that card came up today, what would it be worth? So we were all speculating, what I would pay. I was saying I would pay $2,500 for that card today if I was able to get it in my hands, right? Because It's the only one. But I remember saying distinctly, freaking conspiracy hat theory here. I think they have, and they are going to release special delivery Charizard. They're just waiting for the right moment. And what's that right moment? Whenever they feel like there's a little freaking, dip in the market or dip in Pokemon or interest. Whenever they feel like we need something to spark up the hobby, here it is, guys.
Yep.
Pump it up. We're gonna juice you guys up. And that's exactly what they did.
Yeah. They've got nuclear options out there. Let's just be 100% honest. If they really wanted to, they could always pull out serialized cards too. They could throw them into the packs. Boy, that would really blow that market up for a while too if they were to do that and just push things through. The other one that's still missing, that still blows my mind, is a gold Charizard. Gold card Charizard. Shiny Charizard.
You mean in gold? In today's gold. Gotcha.
Today, like their gold, like the golden cards right there, trying to get, not the metal one, but the actual gold cards. We still don't have one of those sitting out there. Sure. There's a couple options out there that are still missing that they could definitely throw out there. There's tons.
They have tons. They
You
have
could just sit
endless
here.
amounts of ideas.
The longer you sit here and think about it, the more options you could see. That's like, what would I chase if they were to put it out there? Well, if they did this, I'd be, like we were talking beforehand, Pokemon 151.
When the trainer gallery first rolled out, we
Oh
were all
yeah,
talking right during these lives. We were all talking about, man, wouldn't it be so awesome if they pulled out a Nurse Joy with a Chansey or
yeah,
a Professor Oak and one of his, one of the whatever no, Pokemon he may have, whether it's Doduo or Muck or something, right?
yeah.
That's something he would take care of. Officer Jenny and Growlithe, like
Oh
wouldn't those be freaking cool? Brock and Geodude or
yeah.
and
Misty,
as we were rolling out
Misty
these
and Star.
ideas, people were
They did
just
the
like,
Misty
"Oh my god,
Staryu.
that'll be so freaking nuts! That'll be
Oh
so
yeah,
crazy." Gary and his Blastoise or what have you.
yeah. Oh, they could have done. There's so many options still in that. I always said I wish they'd revamp that trainer gallery a little bit. I feel that it's good. I think that it was a good change or good addition in that rare slot or that reverse rare slot. But I feel that if you look at most of the trainer galleries, it's missing something. It's good. Don't get me wrong, but it's not huge. It could have been better.
Okay.
I think they could have done some things to make it a little bit better. And I did a video on that too, where I kind of put my opinion on what I would have liked to seen, like maybe duo cards, like a team up, a trainer Pokemon team up type trainer gallery. So the card would
Okay.
both have a
Yeah.
trainer move that associates with that Pokemon. Could you imagine that mechanic in gameplay? What you could do potentially
That would be
with
cool.
that? That's what I mean. There's just things. It's a cool concept. I like it. I like the trainer gallery. There's a lot of good cards in that trainer gallery, but I feel like some of it just misses the mark. It could have been better. You could have gone one step further with it and made it a little bit better or a little bit more unique or dynamic than what it was.
There's so many freaking crazy ideas. It's crazy, literally crazy.
You just wish the Pokemon was actually listening to one of these.
Exactly.
Like
Pokemon. So someone send this to Pokemon. Someone email this clip.
I was gonna say, who's ever the Pokemon spy, send this video to them and highlight this part of the video. So, number 6. What is one mistake that you've made that you could advise others to avoid?
Oh man, that one's tough. Because the key word is mistake, right? And I don't know if I necessarily have made mistakes.
Judgment
Hindsight,
errors.
obviously, right? Hindsight is an MFer. Obviously, one of the biggest ones, and I call it a mistake only because of what we know today.
Yeah.
Obviously, if we were to replay it, I would have done the exact same thing because without the knowledge, you're still going to go based on the knowledge that you have. But at the peak, yeah, I sold nothing
Yeah.
other than my binders. That I'm very happy of. I sold my binders, my raw cards, my childhood cards. I'm very happy that I got rid of those. But everything that I've had at the very, very top, I never sold. On the way down, obviously still way better than, whatever numbers, we were talking about back in 2019. On the way down, I started to sell off a few things that I knew I just didn't care for. I had no real interest or I lost interest. I didn't enjoy the same. There's been items that I haven't looked at for years because I just didn't care for it. Those types of things I started to kind of go through and be like, all right, I'm going to toss this. This is a healthy number. But once again, it wasn't at the peak. It was only me starting to see that it's going down. I was like, all right, maybe it's not going to go higher and higher. I should get rid of a few of these things.
The things
And again, I'm calling it a mistake, but at the time, with the knowledge that I had, that I just didn't know. I just didn't, For me to sell my base set box that I got for $600 at the peak, I thought I would never get that item again.
Yeah.
And listen, even if I did get rid of it at the peak, even today's prices of, I went to a show a month ago here in San Antonio, local, and one booth sold 2 basic boxes to 2 individuals for $16,000, one at $15 and one at $16,000.
Yep.
Now that's still pretty healthy. I think on eBay maybe 12 to 13,000 in there, but I'm not gonna pull the trigger on $12 to $13,000 basic boxes. No. And then you add the whole: is it real? Is it fake? Has it been tampered with and whatnot? Forget that. But even if I knew it was 100% real, I'm not gonna pull a $10,000 purchase on a single item. I'm not. So essentially, if I would have sold at the peak,
Wouldn't have it.
I knew then, even at 30,000, 35,000, I knew then that I would never see that item again. And it was the base set box is literally the first item I bought getting back into the hobby. And so there's a little bit of a sentimental attachment to it. I mean, hell, when I bought the item, I thought I'm gonna buy this item. My whole family ridiculed me for doing it because I spent
Yeah, six
$600
hundred
for
dollars on a
something that
Pokemon
was
booster box.
$80 back in 1999. And they're like, that's ridiculous. Why would you pay X amount more when you could have just gotten it then? Like, you know. And yeah, everyone looked at me like I'm crazy. I looked at myself like I was crazy, but I know that there's a little something to be said that, you know, when it comes to spending your money, if it brings you genuine happiness, do it.
Do it.
Genuine
Just have fun.
happiness is key. And but yeah, I knew. So when I bought it, I was like, I'm gonna open this. I'm gonna open this with my brother, and it's gonna be in a special occasion. What that is, I don't know, but I'll know it when it gets here.
Yep.
And well, I didn't even get the chance to really hope for that because every year, you know, it would go up. Now, maybe it went up to $1,000, maybe it went up to 1,200, 1,500.
Yep.
It didn't matter. I just saw these prices going up tick by tick by tick. And then eventually 2016 happened, and that gave it a super boost.
Yep.
And then freaking 2020, we know what happened there. So I call it a mistake because, sure, hindsight, I could have sold everything, literally every single item, and gotten everything back. But I had such a deep collector freaking DNA in me, and then on top of that, with the lack of knowledge, it's just something that it would have never happened regardless.
Yep.
Today, as we talked about in the last live, if there's another run on Pokemon, yeah, everything goes.
You go in the closet and go, bye.
Everything goes because we know we know now what happens in these types of markets and these types of cycles, and whatever you want back, you're going to be able to get it back.
Yeah, and if you sell
So
it
that
at
would
the
be so that would be one of the mistakes. And again, I call it air quotes because I don't feel like it's a mistake. But you know, again, hindsight, I guess we can look at it that way just for the sake of argument. Another one is, and it applies to the whole business aspect of the hobby, flipping, you know, buying raw, getting it at such a low price, cost base is so low, grading it and selling it for an outrageous price.
Mhm.
Even you know, now that I think about it, even YouTube, right? A mistake. I'm calling it a mistake from the sense of it's something that I've always had in my head to do. It's something that I've always had in my mind. I would always have these conversations with myself. I should do this. I could do this. Should I do it? Yada yada. And I really, maybe procrastination is not the right word, but I just never really gave myself that push to do it. Um, and I'm gonna quote Oak here. I hope I don't butcher his quote. And he says, "No, I just came up with it like right now, so I don't know." But it was so profound when he told me. It was right when he first started his channel, so he had me on his channel.
Yeah.
And I asked him, like, "Hey, like, oh, like, what pushed you to actually do it? You know, what pushed you to actually do this channel? Like, that takes a lot of courage." And he says something along the lines of, when it comes to something that you really are passionate about, it doesn't take courage. It just takes will. It just takes
Mhm.
how, you know, do you really want to do it? You know, and it doesn't come down to courage. It doesn't come down to like facing that, you know, that person. No, it just really comes down to if you want to do it, just do it. Like who cares? Right? Like there don't think of like the worst case scenarios, because if you love doing it, you really are not thinking of the incentives, right? The
Yep.
incentives just kind of naturally come when you're genuinely happily doing something.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, to me, that was very profound. I was like, oh, Jesus, you know, for someone that's been procrastinating for X amount of time doing it, people have to basic, do you start your channel, start your channel. I was like, I can, but it's like, what am I going to say? What, you know,
Yeah.
me, the yapper, like, what am I going to say, right? Like, what am I going to like? I'm not going to have something to talk about for an hour straight. And so yeah, that's a mistake that I guess a lot of us have in us. It's just that we hold ourselves back a lot,
Yep.
right? Obviously, it's a spectrum, more than others, but we tend to hold ourselves back a lot, and a lot of it does come. I'm still going to use the word. It's having that courage to just do it.
Yeah.
But if you just have a fond of this certain thing, if you just have this genuine love for and you enjoy it, and it brings you happiness, and you're spending X amount of time in it anyway, you might as well just jump in. Just jump in
Go.
and yeah. So that's what I would say. My real genuine mistake is just like not doing these things earlier.
Yeah. And going back to your last part of it, with the YouTube thing, and I just kind of smile about that because, you know, realistically, I wouldn't be here if my son hadn't gone, I wish I could be on YouTube. Because, to be honest with you, I was happy just doing this in my spare time. I mean, I was going to do what I was going to do regardless, and I've been doing what I've been doing since 2019. So it's not like it was anything was going to change in my life from putting it in my basement to putting it onto a camera. But, my son sat there and went, because we were watching Leonhardt at the time, and, I kind of, when I got back, like you said, you couldn't find YouTube channels realistically. Leonhardt was one of the first channels that you came up with whenever you Googled Pokemon, and YouTube that was it. There was no investment advice. There was very few channels that had very good discussions about investment out there. Or if they were so small that they weren't showing up on the algorithm real easily. It was really Leonhardt and Unlisted Leaf. Those two were really, and then what's his name? Not Twice Baked Jake was the only one that I could think of that kind of came up every once in
So
a while.
do you go back to prime? Is it no prime time Pokemon?
Yeah, Primetime Pokemon. Yep.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he was the other
Mhm.
one, and there was one other one that used to come up. There's like 5 channels that really just came up for Pokemon stuff, and most of them were opening channels. They just kind of opened the latest products, and they were sponsored by Pokemon, and Pokemon used them as their sponsorships. So realistically, when I came back, there wasn't much in it. But of course, watched Leonhardt even through everything that was going on. So I've watched Leonhardt for years, been subscribed to his channel for a long period of time, and during the boom and when everything was going crazy, my son even just went, you know, I wish that we could do a channel or do openings like that. And I wish we could be on YouTube and, on the TV because I used to play it on the smart TV up there while I was doing stuff in the back. And it's just like, you can. I mean, there's nothing stopping, a
Yeah,
person from just getting in front of a camera and starting to do stuff. And yeah, when you just start it, you may evolve. You may change directions. Even like here, we went from an opening channel to I saw a problem in the market that the advice that was being given and the things that were being said and still today are a lot driven on hype and FOMO. Buy this because it's going to be the greatest set ever. Well, like you just said, if someone's telling you that's the greatest set ever, I'm probably going to go look over here at what are they not, what's not as popular, because number one, the things that aren't as popular are probably not going to get as much. It's going to be more rare in the future because hot set's going to get more reprints. There's going to be more chase cards out there. There's going to be more availability on the PSA side. While a set that, for example, Chilling Rain, maybe Chilling Rain won't get as much product out there and as much, graded cards and as much popularity right now. But in the future, it's going to be more rarity to that because there isn't going to be reprint after reprint after reprint after reprint of that set because there's just not as many people into it. So,
it's going to be very interesting to see those populations of those sets for sure, especially the ones that didn't get as much reprinted
yeah,
to oblivion. But yeah, very interesting that your son making that comment motivated you to start your channel.
it did.
That's super awesome. Yeah.
It was. I mean, it was just the fact. Well, it was basically I was trying to also prove a point that to him that if you put your mind to it and you want something, find a way to do it. There's
Yeah.
always a way to do it. It's just a matter of how you're going to do it. Laying it out the right way and taking the time to figure that part out is the harder part of the whole thing. But just do it. Get the will, like you said. It's the willpower to get over it and just try it. Because, like I said, the worst thing that happened on YouTube is that we didn't go anywhere. We didn't grow. Nobody watched us, and then, hey, we tried. Yep, we didn't get the popularity, and maybe we'll try something else later. You could always do that aspect too.
Yeah.
So,
And to me, I guess I was just having a lot of fun. I mean, you had me on already, on your channel
yep,
once before. And so for me, I was just having fun, regularly coming onto folks' channels,
yeah,
and doing the same thing. And then on top of that, with little to no hassle on my end, it's just like I just show up, I click the link, and then I'm there, right? I don't
I'm
have to
here.
prepare anything. I
Yep,
don't have to just say talking points or anything like that. I just show up and whatever we're going to talk about, we talk about. And but it's funny you say that now because it kind of reminded me though. My girls actually kind of, they've always said like, Dad, how come you just don't start your own channel? You're already on other people's channels, giving away
Everybody
X
knows
amount of
you.
time. Just do it on your own.
Yep.
And I was like, well, that's not the point. I mean, the point is just me, spending time with people that I liked and with conversations that I love. And
Yep.
if they're already doing it, like, why not? Like, yeah, but imagine if you could do it with them on your channel. I'm like, yeah, that would be cool. So these conversations would be had.
Yep.
But ultimately, once again, Oak. I was on I want to say we were on DNA's channel. Maybe it was Oak, but it was us three. And it was actually, I think it was October 31st, Halloween. And so, trick or treating got done, all that good stuff. And we're on the live. It was a last minute thing. We go on there, post live, we start having conversations. It was really Oak and DNA having conversations about content creating. What do they expect for the next year?
Mm-hmm.
Where do they see their content evolving? What do they want to do with it? What's their end goal? And somewhere in there, Oak said something. Once again, Oak's very profound, guy.
He is. I always like talking to him because he's always got something that's like a tidbit of knowledge that sticks in your head.
And there's something that he said there, and actually, I'm not going to remember what exactly was said, but it was the whole going back and forth and not caring what people think and not caring how, even if you do go on the route of like that typical PokeTuber today with the clickbaity titles and then being judged by people by, turning, all of a sudden towards that lane, the conversation was like, who cares?
Yeah.
If you become successful with it, it's like, who cares? We should be applauding you, not freaking telling you like, oh, you're a sellout or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? As long as you're doing it obviously in a tasteful way, you're not like a bad actor and like dishing bad information to people. But if you're doing it in a genuine way, and even if it is a terrible clickbait, but at the end of the day, the information is right, the information is great. Like, who cares, right? And it was just kind of that back and forth motivational conversation as I'm kind of sitting there as the third wheel because it's kind of them doing it to themselves as content creators. I kind of said out loud, and I didn't realize I said this out loud. I was like, screw it, I'm going to go live. And they all turned to like, oh, really, Basic? Like, stop. And then Oak just completely exaggerates with his reaction to me saying that. He goes, Basic, stop. Please stop. Don't tell me you're going live. I would go live right now. And it was already late. It was like midnight, 1 a.m., something like that. And I was like, I think I might have to. I don't know. But it got to the point where it was like, I think I'm at the point of no return. And now I have to kind of do it. And I didn't want to do it. I'm like, all right, screw it. I'm going to go live right now. Spur of the moment, last minute, Oak actually could not get on. He got, once again, for like the third time, got yelled at by his wife because of Basic. So because we stay on for too long. Because
don't worry, I get yelled at after everything every time I do a long format something because I'm always on way too long. It's like, it's good conversation. It's good info. It's good to have these cocks.
Whenever Basic gets on, it's never a short conversation. So but DNA hopped on and yeah, long story short, October 31st happened, first live stream, and it was awesome because no one expected this. And it was just whoever's up is up and we'll see what happens. A few people showed up. And then from there on, essentially like almost every weekend I've gone live. And again, I missed the last month just because of how busy I've been with Metazoo, and I am going to be tomorrow again at another tournament, next weekend in Vegas for about 2 more tournaments. But yeah, it was just kind of everything coming together at the perfect time to, I guess, just say, you know what, screw it, go live. And now the person that was worried about what am I going to be talking about for an hour, and now I can't stop going for freaking at least like 10 hours. Like, it's ridiculous.
Just wake up the next morning and he's still there. Jesus.
It's ridiculous. Nothing to be proud of, guys. Nothing to be proud of.
Don't do this. So, well, no, and like I said, that's like I tell my wife. She'll sit, even at night, she's going to sit there and go, whoa, you said it was going to be roughly at 2.5 hours online, and then I'll show up like 3.5, 4 hours later, and she'll just be like, how did you last that long? It's like, well, typically we'll close the discussion on this, and then you end up talking about other stuff, and pretty soon 2 hours has passed on that, and yeah, 4.5 hours later of conversation, and
If I may, if she does say something, just show her this part, clip this part, and say, Mrs. Woods, from Basic Trainer himself, I apologize. I apologize from the bottom of my heart because I kept your husband up all this time just on non-important things in life, and it was all my fault. I apologize.
yeah, it'll happen. She'll get over it. I hope. One day she won't. I'll just be gone. The channel will be shut down and canceled. You'll Google me. I'm just gone off the internet. What the hell? What happened?
We'll see Woods in the back of a carton milk.
Yeah, missing person.
Missing.
Oh. All right. Number one most important thing you would consider selling and trading or TCG cards. So what I use as an example, would you say you need a strong community, good networking, family support? What do you think is the most important?
I mean, there's way too many important things, branches, what have you, within this hobby, but even more specifically, right, when you're looking at the business aspect of it. I mean, all of those come into play: family, networking, the friends, the people around you, finances, everything.
Yeah.
Um, but the most important thing for me, and once again, broken record, it's just for me, it's the most safest way to even buy a collectible that's just gonna sit there and just stare right back at you. And that's it, right? Now, you can enjoy it, you can genuinely love it, and you can, it can bring you nostalgic, feelings that make you feel nice, warm, and fuzzy, and that's great, right? But if it's at the cost of like $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, we have to make sure that you are able to, in essence, be able to take the hit when the market value on that, let's call it 10,000. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but $10,000 item is zero now, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to make it more relative, is like when we're buying Moon at $1,500. If you're one of those folks that are buying it because they just love the card and they need it in a PSA 10,
It's fine.
just be financially responsible, right? Make sure that you are taking all of your risk assessments. Make sure that your priorities financially are taken care of. Making sure that you're even something that's very cliche, just but it's very important. Is just financial literacy is in place. And if those things are in place, then you should have a very good understanding of what a $1,500 buy entails
Yeah.
within this hobby, right? And if all of those things are in place and you're still able to make that purchase, then you're probably in a good spot, right?
Yeah.
It's the opposite end of the spectrum that I'm worried about, that they just kind of are more impulsive in their buys. And after buy after buy after buy, they're kind of losing money, and then they buy at 1,500, then they sell it at 1,000, and then they use that 1,000 to buy another $1,000 item, but that's at its peak, and now you sell it when it's 750, right? And
Always a
so essentially,
tumble
you're
down.
just losing money, losing money, losing money, and it's just compounding
Mm-hmm.
losses. So to narrow it down, it's really looking at your financial situation, and regardless of what you're doing, whether you're just buying a collectible because you love it or you're buying an investment within the hobby, is know that while it's in your hands, it might as well be zero.
Yeah.
And if you can live with that, and if you can take that hint, that hit, not hint, that if you could take that hit, then you're probably going to be okay. But if you cannot see a slab be worth $0 when you spend $1,000 for it, if you can't see it as $0 in your hand, you probably shouldn't own it.
Yeah.
Now, maybe too drastic, for most, but that's how I
It's the
see it.
truth.
That's kind of like my keeping something child-proof, right? If you cannot see the item that you're buying at zero, which essentially, again, I know that there's many, belief systems out there. There's many ways of looking at it, but it really is worth zero. Once I give you Woods X,
Yep.
50, $100 for those ETBs in the back, once it's in my hands, you made 50 or $100 on
Yep.
those ETBs. You made your gains. In my hands, it's worth nothing because I haven't made those gains.
They're
Right?
yep, they're unactualized gains. You have not actualized that gain. It's still zero. And just like we were talking about just a little bit earlier, using credit cards to purchase these things, making these huge purchases on, you know, non-expendable money. And that's the biggest thing is in this hobby. At the end of the day, you have to see it as a collectible. At any time, a collectible market could pop. Now, do you foresee Pokemon failing? Do you see these collectibles dropping all the way down to zero? Probably not. The risk assessment says no. But you still have to go in with the mindset, even like myself. I flip so much in order to increase my sealed investment and into my collection. I don't want to take that money out of my house, or if I do, I have a set amount that I'll take out. So I'll take $100 or $200 a month, and it goes into my hobby if I want it to. But it's expendable money. I don't need that money to pay my rent. It's not like I'm buying a case of Evolving Skies, hoping that it'll double so that I can get my money back for my rent. That's not a smart philosophy at the end of the day because everything you purchase has a zero number on it. It hasn't had any actualized gains, even if it's gone up in the market. It isn't actualized until you sell that and make the sale. Because yeah, something as we've even seen on TCG Player and eBay and stuff, shell bidding, shell purchases, people will intentionally either raise or lower the market intentionally to get different positions or change that market value. Yeah, they may not have ever sold at that, which means if you list it at that price, it'll probably never sell because nobody's going to value it at that. And then there again, you're not getting that actualized gains that you potentially think are there. So yeah, it's very good advice to just always see what you're buying at zero and that it has no value. And if you can live with that being zero, you're safe. You're in a good spot. If you are in there going, God, that's my rent money sitting there, I got to get rid of that thing, you're in trouble. You should not be in purchasing that collectible or purchasing that item with that mindset.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of I heard this stat a couple weeks ago. I was watching a podcast and they said something along the lines of that between 2020 and 2021 there were X amount of billionaires made, but then between 2021 and 2022 even more billionaires were lost.
Mm-hmm.
So evaluations, net worths, and whatnot
Change.
went up and then they went straight down. And so at the end of the day, net worth means nothing when they're tied up in assets and those
Correct.
assets get devalued and then you lose it all, or or you lose a great chunk of your value.
Yep. Well, just all them people lost all that money in crypto. Perfect example. I mean, some of them things were doing extremely well. They were unactualized gains. Everybody looked at a number thinking that they've got hundreds of thousands of dollars into an account. And then when they slipped, and if you weren't at the beginning of the slip, you were pretty much sitting at zero at some of those. And that's always a possibility in stock market even. I mean, nobody likes to hear it, but realistically, any kind of investment that you're in, there's always that potential. And as long as you can see, like you said, like you've put it, I think it's a great way of looking at it. If you can see that item as being worthless sitting over here, that any of these things behind me is worthless and you just like them because you like them and you don't need that money, you don't need that income, and you're not counting on that as being a buffer for yourself or income for yourself, you'll do just fine. It's a really good hobby. It's a fun hobby. There's a lot of opportunity in it if you can go in with that mindset or that ability. So, moving into the last question, we finally made her through there, basic.
Finally,
Finally.
if this guy basically just shut up, we can get through this interview.
um, knowing what you do now, would you still focus on graded cards, or would you change and go a different direction in the hobby?
Knowing what I know now, I think yes. I think going full circle, right? I think at the very beginning we were talking about displayability
Yep.
of a collectible, right? And how today, and maybe not even today, this has been a thing forever now, especially in sports, memorabilia and whatnot. But I think today more in the hobby than before, displayability is a big thing, and slabs allows you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why you find modern cards Moonbryon in a slab. it's not to protect it, or at least this is my thinking. It's not to protect it. It's not to, protect its value, from here to, 20, 30 years from now. I think it's just because it's the display of it, of a beautiful card already. You put it inside of a case, it just makes it that much more beautiful. And hell, it makes it even uh that much more cooler of an item to show off, if I may. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? In a world that we live in today of social media and, showing off, right? And people just kind of, bragging about what they got, like Woods over there bragging about his slab collection.
Yeah, not really those ones, but yeah.
There's something to be said about flexing. And I mean, that one thing that's to be said is just, I guess, I don't know, just being able to showcase what you got. Like, it's, and then collectibles is very cool thing, right? Like, obviously nobody likes to showboat, no one likes to, be cocky or anything, but something like Pokemon that's already, how should I say, in a sense still, right? There's still an innocent aspect to the hobby
Yep.
and whatnot, even though money is involved more than ever before. There's still some innocence to the hobby. And so when you can display a Pikachu, like I'm a Pikachu collector, so when I can display a Pikachu and have an awesome Pikachu collection, like that to me, it's just freaking awesome versus a binder. And so comparing it to other things like sealed is still very, dope. Again, hindsight, if I could go back, instead of, because I was actually debating buying that first edition box, but I was like, man, if I buy that first edition box, I'm not going to be able to buy anything else.
Yeah.
So I say, and if I skip on that, I can buy X amount of boxes, which I did, right?
Hmm.
And I was very proud to have X amount of boxes of each set, all the way up to the Neos. And but obviously, hindsight, that was the wrong move. The right move would have been to do the first ed box. But
Edition.
regardless, I'm thinking, what would look cooler? What would look
All
more
the
awesome,
boxes
right?
are
I'm
one.
thinking all of these boxes,
Yep.
right, in one room versus like one box that no one's gonna care for it. But you put all these boxes in one room, even people that don't care for Pokemon will be like, "Whoa, what's that? That's so cool. That's awesome, right?"
Hmm.
And so I think that there's something to be said about displayability of an item and a collectible. And I think grading, what's Dan's saying, Dan's quote? He's bullish on
How
he's,
does he say that?
he's bullish on Pokemon and bearish on card, or I don't know, or plastic. He's bearish on plastic and bullish on Pokemon or cardboard.
Yeah,
Cardboard.
I think
Cardboard.
he's bullish on cardboard, bearish on plastic.
Yeah.
I think that's
And
what it is.
I don't know. I don't think I'm bearish in plastic at all. Like, as far as the spectrum, I'm definitely on the better half of the end of the spectrum. As a person that started out, and the moment he saw a slab, essentially skipped the sealed and just went all slabs for
Yeah.
about 8 years. And so, because there's something about being able to just put a slab on top of your desk of your favorite card, being able to rotate it, because I'm not going to be able to display every single one of my cards, but I like to rotate my cards. I like to
Yeah.
rotate my cards, and 1 month or whatever, right? Whenever I'm feeling it, all right, we need to change, put these guys out, these guys come in.
Let's come back. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just something about that that makes it so cool. There's something about that when you're taking a picture and putting it on your social media. There's something about that when you're going to trade shows, and it feels cooler
Oh, wow.
showing up with a slab to that freaking booth versus a card, a raw card. Obviously,
Yeah.
you put the right card on there, it's going to bring, it's going to
It's
draw
still
some
gonna do
attention.
well.
But in general, it's slabs, right? You come in with a stack of slabs and like, all right, vendor, what do you got? Buy me out,
Yeah.
Slabs just have a much cooler aspect about them. So yeah, knowing what I know now, I think was a question.
Hmm.
Would I still do slabs? Yeah, 100%. I would still do slabs. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like you said, I used to not be as big of a slab person. I used to even 2 years ago or a year ago, you would have heard me say I'm not big into slabs. I think that there's opportunities in them, but I'm not a huge person of them. And then I started buying some because my objective was to start to get all the Flareons that are out there. That was my objective, and that's what I'm still working on, is trying to at least get any grade. I'm not being picky right now. I just want to have one of everyone. Because then I said, if I get them all graded in my slabs, I got displayability, I got my collection. And then what I can start to do is go back and go, okay, now I only want 10s. So then I can take my time and be selective and pick up, okay, I'm going to replace my 8 for a 10, and I can replace this 7 for a 10.
Right.
There's one that I have, it's a 4, but it's a really old 96 Pokemon Pocket Monsters card, and I was looking, and there's not very many of them to begin with. I think there's only like above a 7. I think there's only like 12 above a grade 7. So finding it's going to be extremely difficult to get a 10 in it to begin with. But it's one of those things. At least I have one that's graded, and I have display ability on it. Yeah, it's not a 10. I get it, but it completes my collection, and it has the display ability for my collection where eventually all these could maybe be my full Flareon collection at some point. You could sit there and switch them out, and then, yeah, this one's an 8. Okay, an unforeseen forces Flareon comes up again, and it's a 10 at a reasonable price in another 2, 3, 10 years, whatever. Have an opportunity to replace that out. So I've already built the collection here, continuing. Like you said, the more and more I'm dealing with them, the more and more I'm enjoying slaps. I think that they're really nice to have for that display ability factor and that moving forward in a collection.
As you were talking, you mentioned your PSA 4, and it's fun. I'm a PSA 9 collector, as most know. Like, I aim at PSA 9. Very rarely do I get the 10. Rarely. And then, but yeah, I'm just a snob for the 9. Nothing lower. But with that said, in my submission from back in December 2012, I'm pretty sure. If may I dig out a stack here?
Yep, go for
I
it.
think back in 2020, once again, I sent off a stack, and I got them back. I sent off a lot of the sealed promos. Um, a lot of the sealed promos. Think, movie promos, Ancient Muse, things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And so I already had a set of PSA 9s of the movie promos, 1999, Electabuzz, Pikachu, Dragon Knights, and whatnot. I already had them all slabbed up in 9s. And so during the peak, I sent off all of my still sealed, promos, which included this WB set.
Okay.
I got them back. I got, let's call it wrecked. They were all 5s.
Oh.
I thought it was a funny coincidence that they were all 5s, like not a single 9 and then a 5 and then an 8 and then a whatever, right? They were all 5s.
Huh.
And then I realized that because of that, and those were my only 4, that they are sequential.
Oh, so you got sequential full 5s.
So I got a sequential full 5s. It starts from 30, 30, 31, 32, and then 33 in PSA 5s. So what did I do? I said, this is way too cool. I'm going to sell my PSA 9s and keep these.
Keep the 5s.
Because even though I'm just like a snob for PSA 9s, there's something cool about PSA 5s sequential that I'm pretty sure, I don't know. I may be, freaking exaggerating here. I may be telling lies, but I feel like I'm the only person in the world that holds a PSA 5 set sequential WB promos. And that feels cooler as a collector than just having random, 9s.
Yeah. And coming back to the sequential, that was one of the ones that I ran into that I almost purchased because it would have been expensive, but it would have been really cool. So there was an LGS down in Eau Claire, which is about 2 hours south of here. I was down there for a tournament, and they had in a case, they had 3 PSA 10 Shiny Charizard, the ones from Shining Fates. And I was like, them are cool. And the guy had on there, you could buy each one for like $600, which was $200 over market price, which I thought was really interesting. And then he had, if you would have bought all 3 of them, he was willing to do $1,600 for all 3 of them.
Okay.
So I'm like, well, it gets a little deep, but why does he want to sell all 3? In my head, why are you selling all 3? They were sequential 10s. The numbers were in order, sequential for 10s. It's like, that is kind of cool to have 3 Shining Fates Charizards sequentially numbered in PSA 10. That's just, I could see now why he didn't want to sell, because back then they were still like $420, so $600 was considerably over market value. But that's why he was doing it, is he wanted to try and sell them as a sequential set versus selling them all individually. So it was a really interesting, how to deter someone from buying one and just buying all of them. And then if someone else, he didn't want to split them. He didn't want to see them get split up. He wanted, if someone was going to do it, someone else could split them up.
Right. Yeah.
So,
and then from that return, out of that entire return, I decided to post this on my Instagram. And just like I did here, I'm blowing it up. I'm like, I hold the only PSA 5 sequential set in the world. And of course, the green shiz goes in my comment section and says, I'll give you $5.
I'll give you $5. Thanks, green shiz.
I'm like, hey, I can put it on auction right now, and I'm pretty sure I can get a solid 20. Come on.
I was gonna say, you gotta give me 20. Give me $5 a card. Come on. $5 for the set. So, other than that, basic, we've made it. We've made it through the questions. Thank you for your time once again. It's greatly appreciated to hear all these different ideas and different directions people have gone. One last question I have for you that's not on the list, but I honestly have not been following it too closely, is what is the status of your Ponychu?
What is the status?
Yes, you still have it?
I still have it.
Oh, do you?
It's not going anywhere. I keep it in the same spot as I always do. This guy's not going anywhere anytime soon.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, any Collecticon that I attend, this guy comes with me.
I was gonna say, that's your display piece.
Yeah, it's my display piece. If I've got, so the last Collecticon at Denver, where all the homies were.
Yep.
I think it was Thrifty's table, Thrifty's display. I was like, hey, you mind if I throw this in there? And she's like, no, hell, throw it in there. And what price tag should we put? Like, whatever you sell it at. I'll give you 10% above whatever stupid number I came up with. That's the price of. You could sell it, I'll give you 10%. And I remember other people were like, oh, if I could sell it for this price, would you give me 20? I'm like, sure. 20, I'll give you 20%. But yeah, so, I just have fun with this card. This is such a fun card.
It's cool.
It's one of these cards that is just like these damn things, right? The PSA 5 sequential, regardless of what it is or what it's not. And I got it for $300, and it's the most fun buy, one of the most fun buys that I've ever had. Yeah. One, obviously, because of the recognition within, our circles or whatever.
Yeah. Now now you're the Ponychu man.
No, it's a Ponychu. I mean, that to me alone is worth keeping, forever. But yeah, I have fun with it. That it's staying in my collection forever. If I ever sell off, it's gonna be one of my very last few items that I hold on to. If not, it's going to the grave with me.
They'll just put it next to you in the casket, the Ponychu next to your head as you're going. I just had to know because, like I said, I know that it's been a little while since I've heard anything about it, so I was just kind of curious to know.
Little did I know that, I left it in her display. I walked off. I didn't even say, "Hey, take care of it." I didn't even say, "Watch out." I just put it in the display, and I just walked off like, "Hey, I'm gonna do a few rounds." And as time has gone by, I found more and more people, within that island of the Dan Ketchum Island and Old School Pullman Island. So many people taking selfies with it. So that's, pretty freaking awesome. Like the latest one, Cheval, on his Instagram, he put a post, he put a picture from that day, taking a selfie with this, with the Ponychu. So
that's awesome.
I just think it's hilarious.
That's awesome. Like I said, that's such a cool little, if anything, it's a great conversation starter. It's an awesome little fluke card that's out there. Yeah. And it's real. I mean, it's not like it's a, it's a made up thing. It's actually, it's in a slab. It's authorized.
Whatever that means these days, it's in a slab.
It's in a slab. It counts, right? But no, there was actually a story behind it too, which is really cool. So that's like I said, it's a really interesting piece. It's really cool to see it. So I just had to ask. I figured I'd close it off with an update on the Ponychu.
For sure.
So, but other than that, that's all I've got. Like I said, thanks for your time, Basic. Once again, if you got anything else you want to say, once again, I put everybody's links down below. So definitely your Instagram, your newer YouTube channel. I don't want to say new, but Been doing it for a little bit, and of course, any other links that you have, you can always send them over to me, and they'll definitely be down below so people can get in touch with you and follow you also.
Nope, that's essentially all I play, and it's YouTube and Instagram. And thank you, Woods, for having me on. It's always a blast, and it's always honestly like an honor when I get invited on to people's channels. I've always said it. I still consider myself a Joe Schmo, a person that just kind of is a fan of all you guys. And for you guys to have me on your channels, to me, is like the biggest honor. So, and at the end of the day, we're talking hobby, and
Mhm.
it's talking stuff that we all just love. So it's an amazing time. You never have to twist my arm. I mean, you when you asked me, hey, base, I don't think you were able to finish your text when I said, "What do you mean? You're kidding me? Let's
Let's do this.
okay, let's do this."
Well, I've
So
been having a
no,
problem. Oh,
but yeah, thank you for having me on. Yeah, guys, check out my channel if you guys want to go for crazy long lives. Hop on. I'm always bringing on new folks, new faces in the chats. I'm not shy to bring on anybody from the chat on, and and just have a conversation along with all of the familiar faces in the YouTube world. And I just love this stuff. Let's keep enjoying the hobby. Let's keep it going strong, and hopefully with channels like Woods and others alike, we can keep this train pumping.
absolutely. Hopefully, I know we can. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of things to do in this hobby, and things like this and this kind of series are very good at bringing those things to light. Meeting individuals such as yourself and different ideas and different paths and different ways you can do things in the Pokemon TCG are definitely good ways to keep this hobby going. Keeping it strong, keeping people in interest, and showing people different opportunities that there are in this hobby. So, once again, like I said, thank you, Basic, for coming on and sharing your knowledge and sharing your experiences. That's always great for the people in the hobby. And it's definitely another step forward into maybe helping people make a decision on how they want to pursue, their journey in the Pokemon TCG.
Hopefully.
So, well, other than that, I will wrap her up and thank you once again, Basic, for joining us and giving us your knowledge. Anybody that is new here, of course, like I said, all the links are down below for Basic. That way you can get in touch with him. And other than that, we will see you next time here on Northwoods TCG.
Thank you, Mrs. Woods.